if we got all the electronics hooked up. Meeting is called to order. City Manager, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Please rise and put your right hand over your heart.
Ready to begin? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Mayor Johnston,
Present.
Councilmember Blatz.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick.
Here.
Councilmember Haney.
Here.
Councilmember Francina.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Mr. City Manager, do we have any presentations this evening?
None scheduled.
None scheduled, okay. Reports from council members. Shall we start to my right? Sousa, would you?
Oh, I went to, on Thursday, I'm the city liaison to the Ventura County Animal Shelter, which is now a no-kill shelter. And at some future date, they're doing, they have a full house, about 500 animals. And at some point, I would like to give a presentation of what I would like Ojai to do to help reduce the number of animals in the shelter, but that will be a later date.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Haney?
I thought Angelo Spendero can't make it tonight, so he gave me some information I just wanted to pass on regarding water. Since January 4th, 2017, the lake has gone from 89,277 acre feet to 111,225 acre feet, a net gain of around 2,200,000 acre feet, around 1 year's supply of water. Water is still currently running into the lake at such that the lake is still gaining 2 acre feet per hour, but the rate of gain is steadily decreasing every day. Obviously, we've been in the 80s this week and we'll continue in the 80s. Total Lake Casitas diversion of water for rain this year through February 2017 was 5,060 acre feet, around 25% of the total lake gain. So that's diverted. Rainfall in the back country totaled 30 to 35 inches, depending on the location for the season. Downtown Ojai received 26 inches, averages about 20 inches. If the drought resumes this year and next, stage 4 will occur around the end of 2018. This is highly uncertain, predicted at this point. There's many variables, but so we've pushed it off of, roughly 6 months. Lake Casita sediment study, which is something we've been asking for, and the Casitas Municipal Water District has finally done. They're still a month out, if not longer. They said 4 to 5 weeks before we get the report on that. So for many of you, if you want to know what that will do is, if the lake right now is at 111,000 acre feet, and there's roughly 10 to 12,000 acre feet of sediment, you can see how that impacts it. So we're going to be down to closer to 100,000 acre feet. Both aquifers have risen substantially. The basin, as of February 23rd, 2017, the well levels are up around 40 feet. Basin up around 8,000 acre feet, so we're right around 52, 54%. And the Upper Ventura River, as of March 1st, their well levels are up to 50 feet. And that's all I have.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
Missed a meeting last time. Sorry about that. I had to be in D.C. for another responsibility, which was I'm now the chair of the Ventura Regional Sanitation District. So they sent me off to D.C. to deal with things there, which was highly interesting to be in D.C. In this current time period. Interesting atmosphere. But what I wanted to say, we also recently had this district that the city is part of and has representation on, handles the only landfill operating close to West County, near Santa Paula, the Tola landfill, trying to make that operate at the most efficient way possible. Interesting possibilities in terms of biogas utilization. And it's just an interesting operation that I'm going to be having more reports on. But it's a unique situation, and a lot of potential for some environmentally responsible handling of the sanitation and effluent stream. So that's where I was last week, everyone. And a couple things that I want to bring up. Number one is I've already mentioned to the mayor that I'll be asking for item 1E in the consent calendar to be pulled, which is a letter to the school district to do some edits on, and that's a 40-day a response within 40 days to the school district noticing about surplusing of the Chaparral school property. We're doing a proper response to that. There's a 60-day response period for responding to other issues having to do to certain city agencies, including us.
Why don't we hold that till when we pull it?
Well, no, this is a separate period. I'm requesting that my colleagues support my request that next meeting is the last chance to meet in closed session to discuss our response to this public notice before the 60 days are up, I believe.
2 meetings, next meeting and the meeting after. The 60-day deadline that you're referring to, which is the 60-day deadline for the city to respond to the notice inviting a response to the offer to lease the property, runs April 14th.
Okay, and our next meeting is the 12th, 11th.
Right. So in other words, there's 2 meetings. I'm not saying don't have a
I'm
next
trying to say
meeting,
is
but
it's
just
right
note
before.
there's 2 meetings.
I'm requesting, if I have support from my colleagues, that we have this discussion in closed session at the next meeting, which is the appropriate venue to discuss how we want to respond to that notice. I'm making that request, see if I have support from my colleagues. I'm asking that.
Why don't we take that as a motion when we get to that item and finish with council
Okay,
reports
that'd be
first,
fine.
yeah. Okay, do you have more?
One more thing.
Okay.
I want to report as liaison from, to the Building Appeals Board that a couple things have happened that I think also require, and I'm asking for support, that we agendize the item with respect to some of the recommendations and some of the issues associated with the Building Appeals Board and the second unit program. Number one, they recommended extending the second unit, the non-conforming program that expired on March 8th for several reasons, including the fact that state law now allows the city council to have to use discretion and say we will not be requiring will serve letters involving $16,000 plus to get a non-conforming permit on second units, removing a significant financial impediment, and helping us get our, what long been stated as a council goal, to get our numbers of permitted units up, which helps us with our housing programs. This was not reported to council by staff, not put on the agenda for council to consider. Should we continue will serve letters? The staff has been, even though that January 1st, 17, and in the fall of 16, staff was fully aware that that was a matter of council choice. It has not come to council for choice.
Bill, can you?
I'm going to finish here, Mayor, okay?
Well, Bill,
I'm-
I'm sorry to interrupt you for just a minute here.
All right.
You're reporting on the...
Actions of the BAB.
The Building Appeals Board. Did someone appeal something to the Building Appeals Board?
The Building Appeals Board recommended,
Did somebody appeal something to
the
them?
Building Appeals Board was asked to do policy recommendation and review.
By whom?
By this council,
Okay.
all right? They recommended extending the second unit program. We need the will serve letter is a matter of council discretion that needs to come to council immediately, as far as I'm concerned, and because staff is making policy by default rather than getting council direction. And,
Bill, let's just keep it to the topic rather than...
and I'm asking for support from my colleagues that this be on the next meeting's agenda for discussion. That's my request.
Okay. Any more to report?
All right, guess nobody else wants it on the,
Oh, no, time, do we want to discuss this right now, or do you want to move on?
We are going...
I would support that being on.
Randy, please. We're going to move on. It's Paul's turn.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have nothing to report.
Nothing to report. Okay. To the city attorney, do we make motions during the council reports?
You don't need a motion to put something on a future agenda. It just takes consent from one other member of council.
Right, okay, fine. So I think we...
That's my request.
Okay. And
I think it's timely. I think it's in service to our housing element goals, and I think it's a matter of the city council making policy decision, not staff in this regard.
Right, and I would hope also not the appeals board.
They don't make policy.
Exactly, that's my point. Okay, very good. I think you have support for that from at least one other council person, so.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. My report is fairly brief, but it's tangentially related to a topic on our agenda tonight, and that is in relationship to code enforcement. I have had inquiry from citizens wondering whatever became of the City of Ojai sign ordinance. And I made a trip downtown with that as a focus, and I think the citizens who brought it up have a point. We have sandwich boards all up and down the arcade. We have a banner that looks like it's somebody's laundry hanging out over on the Polito building that you can't read because the wind has blown it upside down. And I guess in keeping with Mayor Pro Tem's request, my request is that the staff provide us with a report on the sign ordinance and what's going on enforcement. If we can't enforce that, I think that some of the other regulations that we are considering are going to be really difficult. So.
I concur.
Okay, public communications. So this is a period where citizens have the opportunity to come forward and speak on topics not on our agenda. Yeah.
Mayor,
Yes.
were we going to make what would be the point of the agenda? You were going to make an announcement on the medical cannabis announcement that the city manager, I didn't see a city manager report.
Well, I was just planning to put it on the.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
For those of you in the audience who wonder what that's about, the cannabis emergency ordinance for the city needs to come back. City attorney's been working on that. Mayor Pro Tem and I have been meeting with the city manager over the rules and regulations, and I believe it's the first meeting in April that will be on our agenda.
Correct. The April 11th agenda is what we have that tentatively scheduled for.
Okay.
And I apologize, I just didn't see the city manager.
That's okay. Okay, we have comments on, let's see, I want to be sure, this says PCN2, so I guess that was an efficiency move for two items. Okay, here we have one, Ron, our librarian. so I'm sorry, I can't, need new glasses here.
Yeah, no worries on the pronunciation. It happens a lot. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'm here tonight to speak about some important community outreach that the library is planning over the next couple of weeks. Recently, the Ventura County Library System concluded a 5-year strategic plan that focused on a new service model and a philosophy of customer and community engagement. We're proud to say that we met all the goals we had set for ourselves as part of this plan, but the conclusion of a successful plan means that it's time to make a new one. So as part of the development of our new strategic plan, the library will be hosting a series of community conversations throughout the county, starting with the Ojai Valley. We're going to begin on Friday, March 31st, in the Ojai Library's new meeting room. And then after that, we're going to hold additional conversations weekly on Thursday evenings through the end of April at a number of other locations around the valley, including the Ojai Valley Museum and the Oakview Park and Resource Center. Each of these facilitated conversations is going to last from 6 to 8 p.m. and will include questions designed to help us better understand people's aspirations for their community, the concerns that they have, and what it is that they believe might make a difference in strengthening their communities. Library staff will take what we learn from our dialogue and use it to help make our work more effective. We'll share what we've learned and let the public know how we plan to use what it is that we hear. We hope that you and other members of the community will be able to join us and add your thoughts to the conversation. If you want any more information on this, just don't hesitate to contact me, and thank you so much for your time.
Okay. Thank you, Ron. We have Risa Horowitz.
Many thanks to the Ojai City Council for being the compassionate, progressive leaders you are in considering medical cannabis for the Ojai community. When I was 28 years old, I had back surgery. I lived for more than half my life treating chronic back, shoulder, and neck pain with codeine. 8 years ago, I realized that the codeine had become ineffective, and I shared this with my primary care physician. I told her I was having to supplement the codeine with alcohol in the evenings because I was in a great deal of pain. My doctor asked, if there was anything else that helped relieve the pain, and I shared with her that I had tried some medical cannabis and that I felt that it worked. I became the first patient my physician wrote a recommendation for. In the years that I've become a medical cannabis patient, I have found only 2 locations in the entire state that have the medicine with the greatest therapeutic benefit for me. One location is in Northern and one is in Southern California. The sophistication of this plant is as a result of over 400 compounds that the plant contains. Contrary to what some people may think, medical cannabis is not one plant, but an abundant number of plants, and more possibilities that are created each day as a result of intentional breeding. We have 4 pharmacies in Ojai that sell the very same medicine, but different delivery dispensaries have different medicine strains, with a range of choices of edibles, tinctures, flowers, and other compounds. To limit patients who rely on medical cannabis to one delivery dispensary is doing a disservice to the community. Ojai has had 2 long-standing collectives that have served the city, throwing away the patient confidence and depriving patients of their unique strains and compounds that they sold in favor of a lottery is unfair. I hope you'll consider the needs of establishing patients in the community as you grant licenses. And the one final thing I'd like to add is the fact that the states that have legal medical cannabis have a much reduced rate of opioid addiction. Like myself, people would take more and more, but I realized I couldn't take any additional codeine. And so the alcohol was my additional boost. If I took additional codeine, I would feel ill. So thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you. We have, I guess, a card for 2 people. I don't know if they're going to do a duet or just, we have Rebecca and Anthony. Come on up.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Rebecca Comerford. I am the co-founder and creative director of Ojai Youth Opera Company. We are a relatively new 501c3 nonprofit arts organization that was formed in October of 2014. And we are the first autonomous children's opera company in America that programs socially conscious opera works for youth. And we're here tonight because we wanted to share just a little bit about our organization and let you know that we are having our first full-scale production at Ojai's Libby Bowl this coming May 13th. We have been operating in Ojai and having workshops and master classes for the past 5 years. I'm a lyric mezzo-soprano, and I brought a model of performance and opera education with me when I moved to Ojai 5 years ago, based on the work that I did for the Metropolitan Opera Guild in New York City, where we paired professional opera singers with young artists that wanted to learn about the craft. And as a result, did outreach education through the public school system. And so that's what we have been doing here in Ojai. We received a grant from the Ojai Valley Women's Fund. We were one of 6 organizations in the Valley to receive a grant to bring our opera education model into Ojai Unified School District and Ventura County. So what we are doing this spring, we are sharing a project called Brundibar, which is written by a Czech composer, Hans Krascha, who wrote this piece during World War II. And Krascha wrote the piece prior to the war, and then he was interned at Theresienstadt concentration camp. He lost the piece along the way, and he rewrote the opera in the camp based for the 14 adult instrumentalists in the camp and the children that were in the camp there with him. So Brundibar has been performed in Europe quite a bit and in a few places in the United States, but it's the first time it'll be performed here in Ventura County and Santa Barbara County. And we are doing a performance. We had auditions in August, and children from not only Ventura, but Santa Barbara, Thousand Oaks, northern Los Angeles came. We heard about 80 singers, and we have 35 in our ensemble. Many are from Ojai. And we are taking the message of Brundabar into the schools. We're going to do opera education, but also tolerance building. So we're bringing that model of talking about anti-bullying and how to bring tolerance into the schools.
Thank you.
So,
Welcome.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ojai is really lucky that Rebecca moved here from New York. This is a unique organization. Yeah, it teaches children to sing. The Ojai Youth Opera teaches children to sing, but it is so much more than that. The Brundabar Project, the education outreach component is about bullying and tolerance, and the opera is a parable, an allegory about bullying, where Brundabar, an organ grinder, is actually Hitler. Why are we here talking to you? The costs of putting on an opera one night in Libby Bowl, sound, light, orchestra, and sets is very high. Tickets, we're pricing tickets to be affordable so everybody can come. We anticipate a sellout of the bowl, and it won't cover our costs. We're going to open the dress rehearsal to the public free of charge, and that's the night before. We are here to request a waiver of the fees and expenses associated with putting on this event at the bowl. The funds saved will go very far. The estimated cost is somewhere between $45,000 and $50,000 for us to put on this one night of opera. So the $700 that we could save would be very significant to us, and so we're hopeful that you would look upon this with favor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, I just make sure they know, we do have adopted a policy, and if you would approach the city manager at the appropriate time, they could give you the policy and the applications for a waiver.
Thank you very much.
Sorry.
Michael Shapiro and Deborah Pensary on deck.
Good evening, Michael Shapiro, Ojai, and good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Councilman, City Manager, City Attorney, Sheriff. I just really am here publicly to do a shout-out thank you to the City Council for your support of the appeal that we won 5-0 last week before the Board of Supervisors down in Ventura County. It was a great victory having a sweep like that, 5-0, and the issue, of course, was the safety and welfare of our youth, our high school students. And what made this appeal, I think, compelling for those who heard it, that is our supervisors, was it was backed officially by the city. Our Mayor Pro Tem, our City Manager, were there presenting, as were Dr. Hank Bankser, Superintendent of Public Education, Principal Greg Bayless, parents from the Nordhoff High School Parent Association as well, and they all made comments that were quite compelling, combined with our attorney, who brought up very succinctly that this was also an issue of CEQA law, that there was a condition that did protect the high school students from arriving in the morning and not competing with behemoth, huge gravel trucks, and that condition was eliminated, and in its place, a new condition that was trying to come aboard that would have, in fact, had gravel trucks competing at the same exact time on the same road with our newly licensed and inexperienced teenage drivers. So we were able to prevail. I think it was the common sense thing to do, but again, we couldn't have done it without the show of unity and the show of force from the entire city and all the branches that had anything to do with students and education. So I want to thank you for it. Moving forward, I think the idea that Ojai first and that Ojai comes together is a compelling strategy and a winning strategy, and I hope we use it whenever we have a chance to do that. Thank you very much.
And I'd like to add my thanks to Supervisor Bennett. I know there may be some difference of opinion on this, but between visits to Supervisor Bennett's office and the planning department, it was sort of remarkable that everybody working together got a 5-0 vote. It didn't start out that way, and the people from the east part of the county have voted the other way and would have been against us had we not all been together, including our supervisor and eventually the executive offices down at the county. So thank you, Michael, for your leadership on pushing that, and I'm glad we got a good result, or at least a better result. Maybe not as good, but it was one that didn't require any litigation. So now we watch. Okay. Deborah.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. Council members, Deborah Pendry representing the Dark Skies Work Group of the Ojai Valley Green Coalition. On March 25th, 2017, millions of people will turn off their lights for 1 hour. Since 2007, when 2.2 million people took part in the first Earth Hour in Sydney, Australia, Earth Hour has massively expanded to 178 countries and territories and aboard the International Space Station. Earth Hour has become an interconnected global community with participants from all walks of life from all over the world. Earth Hour is not merely an annual event, but a continuous movement driving real actions to change the world's use of energy and bring to light the human impact on our home planet Earth. The Ojai Valley Green Coalition Dark Skies Initiative Work Group likes to also take the opportunity through Earth Hour to promote the International Dark Skies movement and our local efforts. Our focus is to support residents and commercial owners shifting to more appropriate and efficient lighting while shifting our culture away from overlighting. As you know, the City Council passed an updated exterior lighting ordinance in 2008, and we expect the Ventura County Planning Department to start working on an ordinance for the unincorporated Ojai Valley area this year. It's been pushed back. It was slated for spring, but they've lost a couple of planners, so we've got pushed back a little bit. So please join the world in the Coalition Dark Skies Work Group this Saturday, March 25th from 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. If enough of us shut off our lights, we may see the stars in a way we haven't in a very long time. You can get more information about Earth Hour at earthhour.org. You can get more information about the Dark Skies movement at darksky.org. And if you'd like to learn more about the Coalition Dark Skies Work Group, you can contact me at deborah.rssc@sbcglobal.net. We meet the fourth Thursday of every month, 4 to 5:30 at the Coalition Resource Center. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah.
But Deborah, it's not this Saturday, is it? 2 weeks. In 2 weeks.
Yeah, Saturday, March 25th.
Okay, March 25th, the time again?
8:30 to 9:30.
8:30 to 9:30.
1 hour, lights out, candle lights up. Go out, check out the stars, a little romance, I don't know.
Yeah, right. Are we gonna get a satellite picture of
Yeah,
seeing
that would be good.
at night the valley disappears? That'd be great. Sarah Armstrong.
My name is Sarah Armstrong. I am a resident of Ventura County, and I'm also the Director of Industry Affairs for Americans for Safe Access. Founded in 2002, we are the nation's oldest patient advocacy organization for medical marijuana patients. I'm here tonight to ask you to resume your work on your ordinance. I know that the first pass is never the best pass because I've done this many, many times. There are several compelling reasons for doing this. One is that there are certain areas of the ordinance that might benefit from correction, among them residency. But most compelling of all, in April, the state of California will release its regulations for the medical cannabis regulation. I'm sorry, the MCRSA, Medical Cannabis Regulation and Safety Act. These ordinances are the beginning of the process for the state. They'll undergo a period of comment and then they'll finalize them. The problem is that if you legislate ahead of this state release of proposed regulations, you may inadvertently license people who are not eligible for state licensure. The reason this is dangerous and bad is you must have a state license in concert with your local license. You get the local license first, and then you go and get your state license. Without the state license, you cannot operate. You must close. If this happens in Ojai, it will be devastating because it will completely disrupt safe access for the sick and dying in the community. So there's a lot of good reasons to kind of resume your work and take another look at this, and I hope that you will do so. I am so excited to see safe access come to Ventura County. I've worked on this on and off for many years now, and I would love it if Ojai was first, but you got to step lively because Port Hueneme is right on your heels, and the LA Board of Supervisors is right beyond that. And later this month, Thousand Oaks will consider safe access as well. So please, I'm part of the working group here. I do not seek licensure for any medical marijuana businesses. I'm happy to come back with my other colleagues from the working group, reconvene, and see if there's anything we can do to help. So please let us know. I know that this is a complex and difficult subject, and I applaud you for taking it on. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, I don't think we have any more cards for public comment. So if there's no one out there intending to oh, do we have something coming down? No, for a different topic, okay. Let's go to, what is it, item 2 or item 1?
Did we approve the consent calendar?
No, we're going to go through the consent calendar.
Yeah, just a second, that's where we're going to. Update the water, show, you did that already, okay. The consent calendars, item 1A through E, do we have a,
Mayor Johnston, I'd request pulling item 1E
okay.
from the consent calendar.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar except for item E?
Yeah, I move that
Okay.
we approve. the
Second.
consent.
Okay, motion second. Any objection? Okay, if not, okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
Item 1E, I believe there are, compared to the letter that is in the packet, that the city attorney has some suggested edits, updating that letter, that require us to pull it from the consent calendar in order to hear those edits and approve them as a council. So I'm going to turn my, over to Mr. Summer, if that's okay, Mayor Johnston, for him to tell us what his suggested edits are.
Mayor and council, there's a couple of suggested edits that accomplish the goal of adding the point that the Chaparral School property is zoned both PL and is subject to the special housing overlay zone, which you'll recall is built into the housing element and is a special affordable housing overlay zone for certain affordable housing projects, not market rate housing, and not all affordable housing projects. They have to thread some needles. So the suggested edits are, I'm looking at attachment B, page 1 of 1, the letter from the city. In the first line, the city has received your notice of surplusing dated February 13th, 2017. And then in the second paragraph, first sentence stays the same. Second sentence would be modified to read as follows. Please be advised that the city cannot make, City of Ojai cannot make a finding that the proposed ground lease of 414 East Ojai Avenue is in conformity, added language, or consistency with our general plan. Next sentence, the Ojai general plan and the municipal code, change from zoning, which must be consistent with it, additional language, are based on categories of allowable land use and, added language, the goals and programs listed in the general plan's elements. Next sentence remains the same. Next sentence adjusted. Please be advised that the only uses of 414 East Ojai Avenue that are consistent with the general plan, changed from conformity, and current zoning code are uses listed as allowed for 1, public, limited, quasi-public, and 2, special housing overlay district, SPL, citing municipal code section 102704. The PL zone is applied to areas that are appropriate for public facilities, government offices, and cultural facilities, added language, while the SPL overlay district implements policies of the land use and housing elements of the general plan that promote the development of affordable housing. And the last paragraph is as proposed.
I will move approval of the edits.
Okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Will we get a revised letter then?
Souza, what?
We'll get a revised letter, right?
It won't come back to
Copy
the
of it.
council, but yeah, a copy will be circulated
Okay, thank you.
to all by.
We have to approve tonight to meet the deadline.
Right.
Okay,
Yes, we'll get a copy of the signed letter from the mayor to the council members.
okay. And Mayor Pro Tem, you are satisfied with all?
I am
the changes?
satisfied.
Okay, call the roll.
Councilmember Blatz?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick?
Yes.
Councilmember Haney?
Yes.
Mayor Johnston?
Yes.
Councilmember Francina?
Yes.
Now, Mayor Johnston, would be in order for me to make my other request regarding closed session discussion of the response to 60-day notice?
Sure.
If I have to make a motion, I will, or I'll just ask if there's concurrence.
I don't think a formal motion is
Or,
required. You're requesting
if it-
concurrence from the
I'm
council.
requesting an agenda
Right,
item.
Yeah,
to
I have,
discuss
I have a
this.
question. Why does this require closed session?
It involves possible land negotiations in terms of, there's a range of responses of the city to a notice of availability. And some of those discussions involve some of those discussions involve issues that are subject to protection from the Brown Act because of their nature. I think the city attorney could expand on that, or correct me if I'm wrong.
Right.
The Brown Act, Mr. Mayor, permits the council to meet in closed session to consider potential negotiations of real property. What's been offered is to.
Right, I'm aware of what it
Fair.
provides for. I'm wondering why this particular thing would need to be in closed session.
There's no legal need for it to be in closed session. It's a matter of choice for the council, whether you wish to have a more frank discussion regarding the options for leasing, or if you would rather have your initial discussions not in closed session.
Okay, well,
So, just for clarification, even if we have a closed session, we can then have, we'll have a public session so that, that's correct?
The first step would be a closed session to decide whether the council has any interest at all in leasing the property. If in the end the council ultimately decides to lease the property, eventually you will have to have an open session to conclude the negotiations and approve the purchase. And it would also have to be looped through the planning commission to have the planning commission comment on the general plan consistency of leasing the property. And then final approval would have to be an open session. It's a matter, final approval would have to be an open session.
okay. I guess my question is based on, it doesn't appear that we're negotiating yet.
Well,
or
I'm
is
fine
this-
with an open session as long as we have a session where we can decide as a group, which has to occur to have a response
Okay.
within the 60-day period.
Okay, do you want to just put it on the agenda?
I'm
and
fine with
deal
that.
it? And if it gets to a point where you feel like we've reached that stage of negotiation, we could.
Our discussion?
Yeah, we could go into closed session.
Could I add on that? I think one of the important factors in this is that there's case law on school property and who has first rights to it. And I think it would be important that the public understands why we as a city would want to look at this property first prior to allowing the school board to lease it, sublease it, or to even sell it to another entity.
Right.
It's good public, just good public policy to let the public weigh in on something as significant as
And I'm
this.
fine
Okay, that's a good point, yeah.
As long as we do it have on the agenda in a timely fashion.
Yeah, okay, and when do our comments have to, or our
Well,
response?
we're on the 60-day response. The reason I would not advise we wait till the meeting in April is that's only 2 days ahead of the deadline. We may have issues that come up we want further information about before we decide on a response. And I think that's why we should have at least an initial discussion about it at the next meeting.
Okay,
Staff can have something ready for the March 28th meeting. I mean, we're not hearing any additional direction coming out from staff, so what I'm understanding is just for an opportunity for the council to have that discussion to determine where they want to go. So there's not a lot for staff to do to get that ready for the March 28th meeting.
okay, what is that the council wish that we put in? Okay,
Thank you.
so ordered, very good.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. My only concern of asking about closed sessions is that, as many of you know, my interest in the city government is to be as open as we can be. There are times when you can do it either way. There's nothing wrong with doing it either way, but I think in this community, it's best to at least start out in the open before we have to retreat. Okay.
Run for cover.
Next topic, let's see what I do with my agenda. Okay, we are to the discussion item, and I guess we have sort of good news and bad news. The good news is it's the only thing on the agenda, and the bad news is it's the only thing on the agenda. We have more than enough time, so welcome, everybody. Shall we have a staff report to kick
Yes, I'd like to
things off?
invite Greg Grant, our Public Works Director and City Engineer, to give the staff report. Thank you, Greg.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Again. And yeah, I'm here tonight to introduce the ordinance imposing a ban on leaf blowers with a 1-year transition period. And I guess we do have a translator tonight for translate from Spanish. So you're dialed in? Okay, thank you. Anyways, yes, the background on this item is the city's existing ordinance regulating leaf blowers was adopted in 1998, which primarily bans the use of gas-powered leaf blowers in residential areas. You okay? Okay. Electric blowers are allowed with operating restrictions in other zones. The council has considered revising the leaf blower regulation several times over the past few years, from further regulations to an outright ban, with several public outreach meetings and public hearings held over the past several years. On September 27, 2016, the council considered the introduction of an ordinance restricting the use of leaf blowers. The draft ordinance was not adopted, but it did provide for the use of low-noise leaf blowers, operator certification, and more stringent operational standards. The city council at that time did not adopt the proposed ordinance and rather directed staff to draft an ordinance banning leaf blowers with a 1-year phase-in period and to provide a demonstration of alternative technologies. The reasons cited for revising the leaf blower regulations by the council and the public included primarily, number one, health impacts, which from leaf blowers include particulates and debris that sometimes contain herbicides, pesticides, fecal contaminants, or simple soil or other debris. While the visible particulates may dissipate quickly, they are smaller particulates that may remain airborne and move through the Ojai Valley for extended periods of time. There's even debate about how far they can go, and I think we have an expert. We'll probably talk about that later in the meeting. This is reported especially troubling for asthmatics and allergy sufferers, as they sometimes have reactions to this kind of dust. Second issue is air pollution. Leaf blowers are commonly powered by two-stroke engines that generate significant levels of air emissions. It's interesting to note that the California Air Resources Board, I just mentioned this out there at the demonstration, is stating that with the increasingly low emissions of cars and the relatively minor emission controls that off-road engines have, that small engines are projected to produce more emissions than cars by the year 2020. That's in the state of California. With this in mind, the Air Resources Board is considering stricter regulations, small off-road engines. The third item that was a significant concern was noise pollution. And gasoline, electric powered blowers both generate substantial noise, as we heard outside when we tested the blowers. There are a newer generation of low noise leaf blowers that are rated at 65 decibels as a standard rating. And I should mention even the vacuum unit we demonstrated out there had a rating on it at 93 decibels. So they weren't pushing to the limits of the blowers are reaching now, the low noise blowers. Even that one, you might have noticed it was a QV unit, the quiet vac was considered the latest, greatest technology. The proposed ordinance, as requested by the council in September of 2016, the proposed ordinance bans the use of all leaf blowers, both gas and electric, in all zones within the city, both residential and commercial, and at all times, 24/7, 365 days a year. Everyone, including both private and commercial operators and properties, must comply with the leaf blower ban. The proposed ordinance is attached in red line and clean versions. So there is the ban applies to any individual, and that enforcement can be on the individual operating the blower, a citation or warning, whatever the case might be. They can cite the person or the real property that owns the property where they're being used, or they can cite the business that's operating it as well. And the business is prohibited from requiring any of their employees to operate the blowers. The exceptions, there are no exceptions written into the blower ordinance at this time, the proposed blower ordinance. Generally, other units of government, such as the state, the city, and school districts are not bound by this type of ordinance. City operations are not exempt from the proposed ban, so they would be effective on the city staff as well, operations. But potential exceptions that could be considered include, we've received requests for exemptions and letters from the Ojai Valley Inn for golf courses. And the Soul Park, we should be mentioning the Soul Park Golf Course is a county operation, so they are exempt by the law. But generally, they try to comply with city ordinances, but they haven't really considered at this time whether or not they would comply with this or not. So the golf course, the Ojai Valley Inn, their estimate was that they would spend an additional $129,585 per year to employ alternate means to meet the standards they feel that their inn has developed. They feel an exemption is justified as their leaf blower activity is removed from the general public. They are very cautious not to disturb their customers, and they can adopt practices to reduce health and risks to their employees and patrons. Another general category for exemptions would be to be considered would be tennis courts. The Ojai Valley Tennis Club, which sponsors the Ojai Valley Tennis Tournament, which has been in operation since 1896, now in its 117th year. They emphasize that all three venues, the primary venues for their tournament, the Libby Park, the Ojai Valley Athletic Club, and the Ojai Valley Inn, all three are cleaned each morning before play with blowers to assure good friction-y surface on the courts and that they're clear of any debris or dust, and also dry sometimes if there is rain or dew from them on them. The Ojai Valley Athletic Club has also requested that their courts and their general grounds be exempted. They have over 100 trees adjacent to tennis courts and throughout their facilities that they're requesting a full exemption from. They've tried vacuums in the past but found them to be less effective. The Ojai Valley School has also requested exemption primarily related to their tennis courts, but also their other grounds. There is a general issue or consideration for parking lots. These facilities just mentioned. The Westridge Market's owner was in here at the September meeting questioning how the difficulty he would have with the parking lots and how to clear them to the standards they've become accustomed to. And the city as well has several municipal lots that would be difficult to maintain at the same standard with the same staffing. There was a new email just received as a request for an exemption. That was a resident who talked about a flat roof and the difficulties with clearing their flat roof, that using rakes and brooms would be very difficult as they get close to the edge of the roof and so on. So they've cited mostly safety and efficiency both as an issue. If the council desires to approve any exceptions or exemptions, the ordinance would have to be amended and the city attorney would have to draft those exemptions. For impact to city operations, the city would be subject to the proposed ordinance and would have to stop using the leaf blowers for maintenance of the parks, the streets, tennis courts, the Libby Bowl, and other general purposes like clearing roofs as well. The impact is discussed in the memorandum attached to the administrative report with an estimated cost of $27,000 per year. Obviously, I think in general, when we talk about alternatives blowers, which is a category in the report, we obviously did a demonstration just beforehand. I hope you appreciated it. And again, I'm sorry we couldn't have had new equipment, but we really did reach out to vendors. And unfortunately, a lot of these vacuums are used heavily on the East Coast. On the West Coast, we had a hard time. I thought this would be a good opportunity for vendors to show off their equipment, but we got minimal cooperation on that. So we showed what we did there. I mean, I think the QV unit that was the cleaner, newer unit was better, but obviously there's still dust generation issues with even vacuums and so on. I also think that the leaves are dry now, and even though rains weren't that long ago, they've dried because of the heat and so on, so there's quite a fair amount of dust being generated from those alternative to the leaf blowers that we demonstrated. But that is always the issue with all these vacuums, that they blow into a collection vacuum box, and that has to have a filter which lets it out. I think on a simpler form, one of my daughters has allergies, and you buy these vacuums which are high efficiency vacuums, these HEPA vacuum cleaners, high efficiency particulate, forget the acronym, but there's a vacuum box on a vacuum, it pulls it into it, and then the exhaust from that vacuum on HEPA vacuum cleaners has got a fancy filter on it. That's what makes them HEPA. So you've got to make sure that exhaust is carefully filtered so it's not just going back into the room, even in a vacuum cleaner. That's what makes them HEPA for issues with allergies and so on. So it's the same kind of problem on these. We saw it, the vacuum is one step of it, but where it blows back up, it has to be very carefully controlled to reduce the dust that comes out of these units. So I think a lot like blowers, it has to do with the operator. An operator with a blower can generate a lot of dust and can be very inconsiderate to people walking by and so on. But it's the same thing with these units. You'd have to develop a skill at operating them carefully and making them efficiently operate without generating dust. I think there's basic options we saw out there were rakes and brooms at the minimal level to these gas and electric powered handheld leaf vacuums, the walk behind leaf vacuums. Some are motorized, some are push.
Greg, can I interrupt you? The basic proposition was the ordinance and the report. Can we hold that for questions if anybody has any questions?
Sure, I'd be glad to wrap this up.
Since those were not proposed they're not in the original proposal anyway. So we have the information, and we may need more information as we go. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Fine.
Do you want to wrap it up then? Is that what you're saying? Or?
Yeah, well, I don't want to go through all of till after the public has had their chance to comment, then we can get into a discussion and get the rest of the.
Sure.
Okay?
I would like to ask Greg a question, if he's done, if you're finished.
Okay, that's fine.
He
wasn't done, he was.
Are you wrapping it up?
I guess the
Okay.
basic categories were implementation, enforcement, and bans in other cities. If you have questions about those, feel free to ask me.
Okay, hang on.
Okay, my question was, I thought I heard you say that schools are exempt? Did I hear you say that, or?
Schools, counties, yes, are not required to abide by city ordinances in general.
So then I heard you say that Ojai Valley School requested an exemption, but aren't they already exempt? Public schools. So that's my question. So, you're saying only public schools, but not private schools?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could jump in on that, depending on the exact ordinance at issue, public schools are required to comply with portions of the city's code to some extent. So there may be wiggle room on that. It would perhaps bear further analysis. Private schools are definitively required to comply with the city's code.
Okay.
The only exemptions that exist are for public schools if they exempt themselves from the city's zoning code by a 2/3 vote of their board. They would have to do that in this case. And then we'd have to look at whether that would work.
Okay, because that's one of the concerns, the athletic fields. And then I thought I heard you say something about the Ojai Valley Inn. They're exempt, but they usually comply. Could you clarify that?
That was mentioned about the schools. No, the Ojai Valley Inn is required to.
Is required.
I'm sorry, yes, Soul Park is probably what you heard. The Soul Park is run by the county, so the county.
Oh, okay, Soul Park.
Right.
Okay, thank you, that's all. Thank you very much. Okay.
Are there other questions? Okay. I didn't mean to cut you off, but we were getting into the merits of filters, and I think enforcement.
I wasn't planning to go too far, but yeah, right, so.
Yeah, right, okay.
Do you want to, implementation enforcement is in the report, if that's sufficient, seeing the report, as well as bans in other cities. Those are the primary other issues.
Okay, good background, fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Not an easy task. I appreciate what you've done.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, before we start taking public comment, I may owe an apology to a couple of citizens out there. One, our planning commissioner, Steve. I didn't see yours in the we can do it at the end of the meeting, or we can do it now if you'd like, whatever your...
Your choice.
Well, why don't you come on up and make your comment before we had, this was on item 1D. And then also, Jay Simon, is Jay still here? Yeah, did you want to talk on 2 or on 1? Yeah, that's what I thought. These ended up getting, in a way, confused in the filing, and also for sharing, okay. So, Steve, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council and staff. I simply had a question about the effect of your having approved consent calendar item 1D. Those who have watched the proceedings of the Planning Commission, of which I am obviously a member, would note that on January 4th, we considered the property in question in item 1D, 601 Crestview Drive, and voted 6-1, I was part of the 6, to direct staff to make some minor changes to the resolution that had been prepared for that meeting approving the application for the design review and whatever came after that, building permit, I guess, which was following up by the homeowner having gotten a permit for one thing and then having built something else. We went through a number of meetings and a number of negotiations to try to get to a more acceptable front face, let's call it, of the property. On the January 18th meeting, after a bunch of emails came in saying, what a shame, or I'm sorry.
Mr. Closey, you might be thinking of 402 Blanche, not 601 Crestview.
The mail was about 402 Blanche. We then reconsidered on January 18th and decided to deny the application, that also by a 6-1 vote. This time I was the one. And my question is, now that you have approved item 1D, what is the state of any negotiations that the Planning Commission may have had with the homeowner? Is it simply approved in the way that it is currently done without any changes that we may have negotiated, or do any or all of those negotiated changes now become part of the permit? Thank you. That's my question. I just don't understand the state of play anymore.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll ask the city attorney what the state of play is.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The answer is that the council's action tonight by a 5-0 vote approves the project as built in its entirety. No further changes need to be made by the property owner. What they built is what was approved. They have the right to finish that to the extent that anything is unfinished. They must, of course, comply with the rest of the zoning code and the building code in completing any remaining work that needs to be completed.
And if I understand your question is that you did have negotiated some improvements or changes.
Those are gone.
Well, yeah, maybe legally, but I would hope that I'd be happy to go talk to the people.
I'm sure the property owner would be willing to make minor adjustments that would accomplish the aesthetic concerns, but as a legal matter, what was approved is what was built.
Correct. Okay, fine, thank you. Okay. The moment we've all been waiting for. Okay, so are there any other questions of staff before we start taking public comment? If not, I'll kind of take them as I... Okay, Sherry Ann Kate? And Carol Smith on deck.
Someone's sitting on deck.
Yeah. Anybody have the on-deck chair? Okay.
Over the years, as you all know, we've fought pretty hard to keep Ojai the beautiful, healthy place that it is.
Speak up.
Okay. And, a few examples of the work that we've done is stopping the freeway from splitting our town in two, defeating a plan to put a regional dump at the mouth of the Ojai Valley, stopping gravel trucks from rumbling through our city. We wrestled control of our water supply away from a for-profit corporation. So we have a lot of hard work that we've done over the years. And we have a sign ordinance, a carry-out bag ordinance, an ordinance to keep chain stores out of town, a noise ordinance, an ordinance to disallow short-term rentals, and a lighting ordinance to preserve our night skies. So now we almost have an ordinance to maintain our air quality, and that is by eliminating leaf blowers. The proposed leaf blower ordinance, passed by a unanimous vote just 6 months ago, included 3 of our 5 current council members. Reversing that vote tonight would be a reversal of the high standards and quality of life to which we in the Ojai Valley have always held ourselves to. If any exceptions, such as tennis courts and golf courses, are considered, the operators and the property owners must be held accountable for fugitive dust and toxic fumes. Anything escaping beyond the boundary of those tennis courts or those golf courses. On all other parts of their property, including parking lots and sidewalks, these property owners should be held to the same restrictions as anyone else. The city of Ojai must lead by example. Public works departments in many other California cities have learned to maintain public property without resorting to the use of leaf blowers. CARB will be setting new regulations for emissions from all types of landscape equipment. The Public Works Department will have to adjust to these new regulations very soon anyway. Those whose personal preference is a leafless landscape can still enjoy that option if they like. Based on our research, in the other cities which have leaf blower bans, this may cost a little more to the landscape maintenance company, but none of them have gone out of business, and none of them have even raised their prices. A photo taken on your cell phone, this is about enforcement, and a new simple app can document infractions of this new ordinance. It records the place and time of the infraction. Enforcing this ordinance using tools like these can make it much easier to ensure cooperation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, former Mayor Smith.
Good evening, everyone, council, Mayor Johnny Johnston. Nice to see you all. And leaf blowers, well, it's sort of like I feel we should be having this conversation on Groundhog Day. This has been an issue going on internally, and I so am in support of banning leaf blowers. It's so much simpler to enforce rather than you could use them 3 to 5 on alternate Sundays, and you can do this gas blowers here, electric blowers here. As much as possible, exemption should be denied. We now have the leaf vacuums. We now have a lot of people who have gone without lawns. So their entire landscape now is basically plants and gravel and some leaves. I think that if it's banned as far as the whole city, then every gardener knows they can't use it. Enforcement becomes so much simpler. The city, as far as sweeping under Libby Park benches and stuff, well, as far as I know, when we have a event there, we have a contract with the event management that they need to leave the city and the park looking as it was found. So if they want to use a sweeper or rakes or one of the leaf vacuums, so be it. I really think that we should try it with no exceptions. Let's take a look. If there are monumental problems, then look at that. But it's very easy to enforce no. It's very hard otherwise in other situations. I can't tell you, especially when we have the usual drought conditions, how much dust and particle matter is forced into the air, and it's sickening to some people. Let's do without and see if changes are necessary after a year or so. Thank you so much.
I was counting the number of cards. Thank you very much, Mayor. Since we've started with 3 minutes, but I think if we're going to get out of here at anywhere close to a reasonable hour, we will go to a 2-minute presentation, and if we have time at the end and someone wants to add, they can come back up. How will that be? We agreed, council, or? Okay, let's,
I don't mind staying late. Just,
okay.
I mean, I don't know, I'm not the only voice, but I don't mind.
So does the council want to go 3 minutes? That's a.
I'd say 2.
Paul, you know how to do the multiplication.
I'd say
You've been
2.
Yeah, okay. I think we're gonna have to stay.
May I ask that if someone is an expert who's traveled to, 3 hours to come here, that they would be given their full 3 minutes?
Certainly. If they've traveled, do we have someone who's traveled 3 hours?
Well, or even a couple of hours,
Okay, well, I'm not
Yeah.
being fussy on the number
I
of
mean,
hours.
as
just to-
mayor, you can grant time if it's compelling.
Okay,
That's
I
your
would agree with
prerogative.
that, so we, okay, thank you. Mark Weil,
I'm going to defer to Mike Borders.
okay, right.
Hello, Mike Borders, 1503 San Gabriel, resident of Ojai, also president of the Ojai Valley Tennis Club, which is the organization that hosts the annual Ojai Valley Tennis Tournament, which has been mentioned, we're now in our 117th year. We use over 120 tennis courts throughout the entire Ojai Valley, Ventura, Oxnard. Within the city limits, we use 4 major venues now. The letter I sent to everyone back in October mentioned 3 major venues, the Ojai Valley Inn, Libby Park, and the Ojai Valley Athletic Club. Since that October letter, Mark Weil has completed 6 new courts at the Weil Tennis Academy, which we will plan to use as part of our tournament. We also use about 20 private tennis courts throughout the greater Ojai area, and probably in any year, 4 or 5 of those private courts are within the city limits. So those would be the venues within the city limits that would be subject to this proposed ban. It's interesting that the tennis club itself owns no courts. We use other people's courts. And without those courts, we couldn't put on the tournament. Without using leaf blowers, we would have an extremely difficult time putting on the tournament. The problem we encounter on a daily basis, we need to have the courts cleaned and safe for play by 8 o'clock in the morning when play starts. The only way that's feasible for us to do that is to use leaf blowers, especially as in the last few years we have inclement weather where we have rain. We need to get the courts dry. Leaf blowers are great not only for clearing the courts of debris and the fine dust that we need to get off the courts, but leaf blowers are great at getting the water pushed over to the side so it has a chance to dry out. I think, am I over time? Real quickly, the tournament is 6 days, 6 days of the year. We would hope that we could craft an exception or an exemption to permit the tennis tournament to continue to use leaf blowers. But beyond that, the Ojai Valley Tennis Club has a charitable purpose of promoting youth tennis throughout the entire valley and maintaining and providing tennis facilities for the youth of the valley. It's important that these tennis courts be available on a year-round basis, not just for the 6 days of the tournament. Now, I think a number of these organizations, the Wild Tennis Academy, the Athletic Club, the Ojai Valley Inn, can all state their own positions, and I can't directly represent their positions, but I think we ought to think about having an exemption on a year-round basis for all tennis courts in the city limits, including the ones at the private schools, including the private homes that are used for the tournament. So, any questions?
May I ask a question, please? Are you talking about gas-powered leaf blowers or electric leaf blowers?
Both.
Both.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, may I ask one question? Could you manage with simply electric? Is there a problem with that?
Well, I can't speak for the Ojai Valley Inn or the Athletic Club or the Wild Tennis Academy. Speaking really with respect to Libby Park, which are the courts that the tennis club directly sort of maintains during the tournament, as opposed to the Public Works Department, we do it. We happen to have gas leaf blowers. If you said you have to use electric, I'm sure we could scrounge around and find some electric blowers, so we probably could get by with electric blowers at Libby Park, but I really hate to speak on behalf of the other tennis courts.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I was counting the cards again, and I was trying to get everybody at 3 minutes, and we had a 3-minute one on a 2-minute clock. We can see the problem that creates. If we're going to question the people, then we're going to have to stay to 2 minutes. If we can just go ahead and, I'm seeing, I don't know if that's for victory or whether the audience is happy with 2. Okay, well, apparently the audience.
Could I ask then, when people talk about leaf blowers, could they specify whether they're speaking about gas-powered, electric, or both? Then I wouldn't have to ask. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jane Weil. Good point, Susan.
Thank you. Okay, I would like to speak, I know you're going to hear a lot tonight about the health reasons for banning blowers. I would like to point out that you're only banning it in the city, and you're surrounded by area where other people are going to be using blowers. If you use a mower, you're going to be picking up dust. Leaf blowers are not the only thing that create dust. If people are not picking up their leaves because they cannot do so without a blower, you're actually creating more dust that gets in the streets. The sweeper comes through that's supposedly cleaning the street, and it's just spreading that dust around. So you're going to hear a lot about health. You're not going to solve that problem by banning leaf blowers. The school district does not have to follow that ban. The county does not have to follow that ban. Anyone who's outside the city limits. So you've got Nordhoff, you've got you've got any of the school district properties, and you've got the park surrounding the city, and those people are going to be exempt. So as much as you might want to solve this problem for people, it's not going to solve the problem. And I have a very, very big concern that people can look at this ban and say that it is prejudice against people who are low income and Latino who use these leaf blowers to survive for their business. And the more lawns they can do, the more income they can have for their families. And it is important to them that they have that ability to do that. And I think this ban is denying them income, because it's going to take them longer to do people's properties. And I think you need to think about them, and you need to think about the fact that you're surrounded by areas that are going to be using leaf blowers anyway.
Okay, thank you, Jane.
You.
Bill Miley? Bill, I'm sorry, I told you no props, okay? Yeah, right. Okay.
My name is Bill Miley. Oh, yeah. With the common belief that good politics is the art of compromise, I believe our city deserves a smart compromise on the question of leaf blowers in the city. When I looked at this agenda last week, I was shocked to see a 100% ban being proposed. Where have I been? Do I have 3 minutes or 2?
2.
Okay. I have participated in many council discussions in the past. Cities with no trees, they need few leaf blowers to keep their city clear and clean. Brooms probably will work. We're a tree city, says so on the Highway 33 sign south of our town. We love trees, we plant trees, we water them in the summer, we have Ojai trees. They drop their stuff as part of their life. We put our houses, where do we put them in the buildings? Under the drop zones. Some of us complain, but most of us think this is a nature doing its thing. But we need an efficient way to move the leaves, needles, and other stuff around. The South Coast Air Quality Control District in 2007 adopted an exchange discount program from landscapers and gardeners to help them get the latest technology. They spend up to $1 million a year, and this year they're spending almost $500,000 a year. Turn the old ones in, get new ones, and so on. Okay. I have a chart that's I gave you folks and being passed out here, which shows all the latest technologies, and you can get an electric leaf blower that has a 5-hour battery. This one, a 35-minute battery, and it's low speed, and it's low noise, it's under 65. Okay. In summary, we live in a tree city, we value trees, and our city is known for mostly being covered by trees. And there are agencies around, including the Ventura County Pollution Control District, they have the exchange discount program too for gas blowers, and I think they're going to do it for an electric. So I think we need a compromise. We need an ability to keep the parts of our city from looking ratty and from building up hazardous debris on roofs, yards, walks, streets, decks, and other places. New
Okay, you need to
technology
wrap
is
up,
the
Bill.
answer. And that's it.
Okay, thanks. Very nice.
Would you like me to blow the lead?
All right, let's have a hand for Bill, right? Okay, very good. Barbara Snyder.
Mr. Mayor, council persons, I am Barbara Snyder, here to speak for my 71-year-old husband, Charlie, who is unwell tonight. He asked me to urge you not to pass this new ordinance, which would make utilization of a low-powered electric leaf blower illegal. We live on 1/3 of an acre property with multiple deciduous trees, and in the fall we are inundated with leaves. We also have live oaks overhanging the roof area, which shed leaves year-round and needs to be removed. He blows the leaves off our roofs fairly often. Unblown leaves build up on the roof and can cause damage, water blockage, and roof leaks in the rain. A composition shingle roof cannot be raked without damage. In addition, blowing as opposed to raking enables the leaves to bypass the gutters and fall to the ground to be manually collected. He does this work himself. Our approximately 75 by 40-foot front yard has a stand of periwinkle and freeway daisies, both low water use vegetation. Neither of these areas can be cleared of leaves utilizing a rake without damage. A blower is essential. Once a week or so, for 30 to 45 minutes, our leaf blower is utilized to clear the front of our property quickly and efficiently. Following that, all leaves are placed in one of our 3 brown yard waste cans, which in the fall are not enough to hold all the leaves. I believe the proposed ordinance should provide an exemption for using a low-noise, low-power electric blower for clearing roofs and yards in an R1 zone. I speak for all the law-abiding residents of Ojai, buried in the leaves of fall. Don't make my husband a criminal. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Russell Sidney?
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, council members, staff. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to speak. My name is Russell Sidney. I'm the Executive Director of the Ojai Valley Green Coalition, and we do not have an official policy with regards to leaf blowers. We do, however, have a very deep concern about the use of fossil fuels in general, and we advocate using electric alternatives. I'm also a homeowner, and I've used electric garden implements since the 90s. They work. By the way, I have a very long extension cord. So fossil fuels are causing so many problems, and we burn them so much. I would challenge the people that want to eliminate leaf blowers to stop burning them in their cars. If you're concerned about particulate emissions and you're concerned about the health of our air, guess what, folks? You're driving cars. So electric cars work. The tools I use and my electric car allow me to use less than 50 gallons of oil a year, okay? And I drive as much as most people do. So I would encourage you to consider the electric tools as an alternative, and if you're going to go there, please consider requiring the homeowners to make plugs available for these, Because if people are going to use these commercially, it's going to take a while for them to adjust. And by the way, those that are using leaf blowers, you'll find the maintenance costs on electric ones are much less than they are on the gas ones. So that will help to offset some of the costs. But they are going to need plugs. There's a real important social justice issue here. We have a wonderful valley filled with some very affluent people that are very concerned about a lot of fine details, but one of the most important details is the people that live here and making sure that the people that do the work that keep this place looking nice are taken care of. Eliminating leaf blowers does increase the cost, and let's make sure it's the people that have the resources that cover that cost, not the people that are doing the hard work that end up having to carry that burden.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Russell. Okay, Ashley Osler, followed by Jeff Wells. What was that?
Good evening, Mayor and Council and staff. Thank you. My understanding is that from the landscapers contracted by the cities that have bans on all leaf blowers is that with the vacuums, the job gets done quicker, and the initial investment of vacuums is paying off due to its ability to work faster than a leaf blower. No one has been laid off in these cities. In fact, there are more jobs because of the quickness of the job being done. Vacuum and rake combo is quicker, and everyone is better for it health-wise. And let's see. Obviously, there is a cost to regulation that Ojai needs to consider, but there are many alternatives to keep this cost way down. Police on patrol can address violations and create income to offset costs with fines. Apps designed for the public involvement can help as well. Education outreach, which can be done at no expense, can help in the process of switching over to vacuums. With good effort, we could see leaf blowers disappear and the use of only vacuums throughout Ojai, and violations will be a thing of the past. Moving to electric blowers is missing the point. The science is out on what blowers do to our air, our health, and our landscapes. The cost of doing business is for the health of the community. As to the concerns for mulch as fire hazard, in speaking with the Ventura Fire Hazard Department, only in the high fire hazard areas is there a recommendation of a limit of 2 inches of mulch. And as I've offered in the past, I've built relationships with manufacturers who are interested in helping the city and its residents with wholesale group discounts for the vacuums. Now, in understanding that the Ojai Valley Inn and the golf course and the public schools might be exempt, I would hope that there would be an education as how to use leaf blowers. And those 3 places certainly represent a lot of pollution. Another reason for us to consider the importance of bringing in better technology for the residents.
Okay, need to wind up here.
And, okay, and again, I ask, if there are a number of people who are ill in the valley, why wouldn't we do everything we can to protect their health? And lastly, and most importantly, we must think of the health of the laborers. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff Wells with, is it Casey Paulson? I don't know if I'm reading that correctly. Yes. On deck.
I just have some points I'm going to shoot at you guys. I was looking at online, and I could only come up with less than 1% of cities, and that's just cities, not counties, actually have a total ban. And I think there was probably 30 or so that have partial bans. I really think that the ones that have partial bans, are probably a little bit wiser with respect to working something out that works for everybody. I like what Bill said earlier as far as compromise. And, I look at this as a business owner and what have you, and property owner, and my cost is probably about $15,000 just in equipment. And different types of equipment and what have you. The equipment is louder. I got it down to 92 decibels. So what we're using right now, which is actually, I went out and bought the best battery-operated systems, although I know sometimes they use gas, but they all have battery-operated blowers right now. And that was because a neighbor complained, and I went out and I tried to fix it, solve that problem. It was on noise, not the particulates. I see these sweepers, and I like the sweepers because I believe in clean streets, because I really think brooming stuff is going to literally end up in our gutters, which is going to be, go out to the oceans and what have you. But I mean, have you ever followed a sweeper truck? It's really, really bad. It's worse, it's almost like standing right, in front of a blower. I just caution you guys to make sure that this doesn't backfire. And as far as exemptions, I got 50,000 square feet of parking lots, and I have additional costs too. Make it fair across the board. If you want to ban it, make it difficult for everybody. Then we'll have, then people will really come out and complain. Thanks.
Thank you. Casey? With Abel?
Okay, here we are again, year 3. Our demo out there, that was great, but we can't use that stuff. I can't lug something like that in my truck. It's ridiculous. We've come up with the quiet blowers. We've come up with, when we get our city license, buying a tag for it. We've come up with being penalized if they're blowing a giant dust cloud. A lot of us gardeners, when we start these blowers up, people think we're running them at 100 miles an hour, and we don't. Had my taxes down in Santa Barbara yesterday. Looked down, maintenance crew using a blower down there. Aren't they banned in Santa Barbara? It's just not practical to ban these blowers. I mean, we've come up with the alternative, quiet blowers, tags on them. An all-out ban for homeowners and everybody, come on, that's not realistic. That's not going to happen. So you're going to have a neighbor turn in a neighbor, and by the time the police show up, they're done. So you're pulling a deputy off the street to go chase down some blower? The deputy has a taser. Very useful tool. You guys all have computers. Very useful. Can you imagine running City Hall without computers? You could do it, but it's going to be a lot more work, a lot harder. And that, for us gardeners, the quiet blowers, I don't like the loud ones. Get rid of those. The quiet blowers, very important tool. Have the city buy back our blowers. Our loud blowers, give us the $300 buyback on them. Help us buy the new ones. Let's do this in, 6 months, not a year. Then instruct the sheriff's department to go out there and find the gardeners that don't have the quiet blowers. That's practical. What you're saying, an all-out ban, that's not practical. It's not going to happen. I'm going to use mine. I have big lots to clean. I'm going to use it.
Careful, Casey, we're on film.
So, I'm just saying. I mean, it's not, my neighbor's not going to go broom down his driveway and stuff. I mean, we got common sense. And we've year 3, so that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay. Abel, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, my name is Abel Carranza. I own a landscape business here in town. And I think, banning is not the solution. We started at years, 90-something, because of the fumes. They were loud, smoke. Now we got solutions, we got new technology, and we just need to educate ourselves. All the owners of the business should, teach your employees how to use them, not blowing into people's face, going into people's cars, and buy the top-of-the-line equipment. If it give us enough time, we can, educate ourselves by buying the top of the line and keep Ojai beautiful again. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you, Abel. Deborah Pendry?
Hi, Deborah Pendry, representing myself. And This is a hard one, and I'm going to do my usual overarching philosophical approach here.
Okay, in 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's a hard one.
Yeah.
Not only because we're talking about leaf blowers, but because our society continues to pit economics against ecology, or economics against good policy, or economics against technology, or the list goes on. It's a really hard mindset for all of us to overcome. I personally wouldn't be investing in cheap single-use plastic bag manufacturing right now. We innocently enough invented this amazing, inexpensive, versatile bag, only to realize 50 years later those bags are wreaking havoc on the environment at just about every level. We see legislation on this issue growing by community, state, and country. We see and understand the destruction, yet we resist the change. Our main argument's convenience, and it's free, and how in the heck are we going to line our trash cans? That free is factored into the cost of the retailer's products, we know that, but we don't factor in the cost to the environment and the cost of constantly trying to clean up after these pervasive bags. Rat catcher was a real job in the early 20th century, but we invented the mousetrap and put those folks out of work. We invented computers, and I would guess a lot of people connected to the typewriter industry had to regroup. The point is, shift happens as the future becomes a present and we gain knowledge and hopefully wisdom. Communities and careers constantly ebb and flow. Can we learn to embrace the necessity of change? Leaf blowers were invented, and what a time saver. But here we are, approximately 60 years later. We did something before these folks, and we can see, hear, smell their impact on our community ecology. I'm a bookkeeper. I assume my time will come to have to embrace a change that will impact my livelihood. We must adapt or become the largest endangered species.
Okay, thank you, Deborah. Jesus? Is Jesus still? Yeah. Welcome.
Sí. Buenas noches, con señor Council, todas las personas que están aquí presentes. Yo soy dueño de...
Un momento. Okay.
My name is Jesus. Good evening.
Yo soy dueño de una compañía aquí en
I am the owner of a company in this city, in Ojai, and I've been doing it for 10 years.
Yo sé que esta regulación de los
I
blowers
know that this blower regulation has been going on for a long time. It's been going on for like a year or a year and a half.
vinimos y todos
And we
sabemos
came
como
here,
en todas
and
las-
all of us know,
en todas las compañías
and
hay
we know
regulaciones.
that every company
socio
has
de una
rules.
compañía de
I'm
un
a
laboratorio
partner at a
que
lab
hace exámenes de sangre
that does
y todos
blood
tenemos
work,
regulaciones y yo
and we
creo
all
que
have to go through regulations.
yo les pido una oportunidad
But I'm asking you for the opportunity
para poder seguir trabajando
to
con nuestros
continue
blowers,
to
ser
work
más
with our
fácil
blowers,
para nuestro trabajo.
make our jobs easier.
Yo tengo mis empleados y ellos
I have
dependen de mí.
employees, they depend on me,
Y pues sabemos,
and we know.
yo como dueño del laboratorio sabemos que entendemos las cosas.
As the owner of the lab, I know that I have to
Mi
follow
hijo
things.
tiene alergia, pero cuando
My
él
son
viene
has
y
allergies,
trabaja
but when he comes to work with
con
me,
nosotros, se le quita la alergia.
the allergies disappear.
Simplemente, médicamente,
Simply and
trabajando,
medically,
se quitan las enfermedades. Eso es
when you
simplemente
work,
la pollution
those illnesses go away.
se quita trabajando.
The pollution goes away while you work.
Y hay muchas regulaciones en este mundo, ¿verdad? Pero todos tenemos.
There are so many regulations in
cada
this world,
cada brain tiene un pensamiento.
but everyone's brain has different thoughts.
Hace daño todo, en realidad hace daño
Everything
todo.
harms you. Everything is harmful, truly.
Yo, como les digo,
Like I am
siendo
telling you,
partner del laboratorio,
being
hacemos
a
testes de
partner
todo.
of the lab,
Ah,
we test
hacemos test
everything.
del aire,
We
pero en
test
realidad
the air,
hay mucha gente que se muere de otras
and in
cosas,
reality, people die from
menos
other
de
things,
pollution
and they don't die
del
from
aire.
air pollution.
Yo estoy aquí, yo les doy pruebas, que
I'm
hacemos
here,
exámenes
and I'm
más
telling you that we do
de
testing.
SIDA, de cáncer.
We test AIDS,
hacemos
cancer,
biopsias de otras cosas,
we do
pero nunca
biopsies of all kinds of
hacemos
things.
testes del aire, de la polución.
We never test
Pero la
pollution,
gente
we never
con
test the
medicamentos
air.
se compone y se
People
va.
get better with medication,
Pero
they get
esas
better and
otras
they go
cosas
home.
no.
But we don't test this other
Esto es-
stuff.
En realidad esto es realístico.
This is
y
being
esto es lo que tenemos.
realistic. This
Y-
is what we have.
En realidad eso es lo que hay en el mundo.
Okay,
This is the reality of our world.
fine. Thank you. Muchas gracias. Also, thank you, Scott, for the water. That was a nice gesture. Jay, Simon? And Pat McPherson on deck. I'll give you a warning, Pat.
I'm Jay Simons. I've lived here in Ojai since 1980. Thank you for the opportunity to talk. Well, here we are again, as many people have said. I have been participating in the leaf blower discussions since the initial ban was implemented in 1998. Let me remind you of why I support the complete ban of leaf blowers within the city. I resent having to barricade myself in my home for hours each month to avoid being subjected to infernal noise and unhealthful dust and pollution. I am angered while jogging down Foothill Road when I am confronted by dueling leaf blowers blowing off a driveway, creating a thick dust cloud. My choices are to take a deep breath and run for it, or wait until the barrage has drifted away. I am saddened that the major health consequences of using this equipment are disproportionately borne by the operators. I can run away, but they literally carry their nemesis on their backs. Noise, hydrocarbon emissions, including potent carcinogens, which you can't see, of course, but you certainly can breathe them, and airborne pollutants are intensely concentrated at the operator's location. So I support the ban. I can also support specialized exemptions like tennis courts and the Ojai Valley Inn, with the proviso that no debris or dust cloud encroach on the street or neighboring property. I believe that the city should have no special exemption other than the tennis courts. We should lead by example and by using low-impact tools like rakes, brooms, and vacuums. Many other communities seem to function perfectly well without blowers. In summary, this leaf blower ban is no different than the ordinances that limit public smoking, chain stores, inappropriate signage, inappropriate tree trimming, excessive noise, light pollution, short-term rentals, and the impacts of excessive tourism. Let's get this done. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Okay, Pat, you're up, and is...
John, can I get back on the roster, Mark Weil?
Oh, sure, okay. Let me write that down, okay.
Hi, Pat McPherson, Council, Mayor. I live on 6/10 of an acre in Ojai. I've got 26 trees. I've got 3 California sycamores. All of them have multiple trunks over 24 inches in diameter. I've got 9 redwoods. 5 of them are over 2 feet in diameter. I have 3 cedar trees, which are over 30 feet tall. I've got a mature apple and a whole bunch of other trees. These trees all lose their leaves. I have 4 yard waste things that they use for the trimmings and everything else. I used to take care of my yard myself. I now have a gardener. Now I have this thing. I can't even go out there and rake my yard any longer. Okay, I can go out with a little electric blower and blow up my patio and have some guests come over in a heartbeat. The people that come to my place to take care of it spend less than 15 minutes blowing off my 6/10 of an acre. And so what I'm saying is, let's find a compromise here. You came up with a good plan which allowed the gas and electric, because the gas have changed. They do meet the requirements. They meet the noise requirements that were originally in place when we made it electric. Let's just go ahead and do that, but don't ban them completely, because it makes no sense. And the city is such a small particle in this whole valley. So why penalize me when the person on the other side of Gridley can do it, when the Peters and Miners Oaks can do it, everybody else, but you're going to say, pick those people in Ojai and let's just tell Pat McPherson he can't do it, but the other people can. That's what I find offensive. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Pat. Okay. Mark, come on up. And Giovanni Boris is on deck.
Mark Weil, Ojai resident. I'm just going to be quick. I'm against the ban completely. I hope we can come to a compromise and allow some sort of either restricted use or conditional use or some sort of use. I just think it doesn't make any sense to ban them completely, go electric, we cannot hermetically seal Ojai. It's a beautiful place. It's got great air. I'm going to keep my kids here. We're going to stay here. We think it's a fantastic place to live. The air is great. Could it be better? Maybe a little bit, but again, I think the overall impact is not that great. And I think we just need to be reasonable and think about it and not go overboard, not do a knee-jerk reaction again to a lot of people who are counting on having leaf blowers for their livelihood. Okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, Giovanni with Stan, I don't know if this is Greer, on deck.
Evening.
Howdy.
Hi. My name is Giovanni. Well, I think a lot of people have covered most of the things here on the blowers, whether it's good or bad. I mean, it's true what they said earlier. I mean, if you get rid of the blowers, I mean, you're still going to have wood chippers working. They blow dust into the air. Still going to have weed whackers, lawnmowers, all that kind of stuff, cars, heavy trucks, heavy equipment, skip loaders, bobcats, that kind of stuff, masonry workers, all that. I mean, it's going to blow dust in the air, you guys are talking about how it's so easy to enforce the ordinance, right? Ban them. Yeah, it's easy, but what's not easy is, going property to property when it's leaf season, all that, and all the trees, all the deciduous trees, all that, they're dropping their leaves and making a mess. It's not easy to go there, and we have to sometimes finish in 30 minutes because that's the time they give us. Sometimes we don't even have time to do maintenance on other plants. If we spend the time raking and sweeping, we're not going to have time to prune and trim the plants, check the irrigation, stuff like that. Like I said, a lot of people have covered a lot of things that I was going to mention, but I just don't think it's fair to us, people working out there hard, and, we're trying to make our money, and, we're not robbing anybody. I know we do blow dust into the air, but, as far as our company, I've told the guys, let's not use two blowers on one property, it is, it's kind of ridiculous using two blowers, let's just have one guy blowing and, rake up the heavier leaves and another guy go with the blower and, do the final touch so it looks nice and clean, but just, I don't think if you get rid of the blowers, it's not going to get rid of the air pollution and all that. You're going to have other things kicking stuff into the air, So, yeah, that's just what I have to say.
Okay. Thank you, Giovanni. Okay, Stan with Lenny. Is it Lenny or Lon? It looks like you wrote it. Yeah, I think it is. It looks like an old one.
Because the only Stan in the room.
Oh, it's Stan Green, not Greer.
Good evening, council members, Mr. Mayor.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Stan Green, and I live in the city. I may be doing something bad because I've been involved in protecting this valley for maybe 35 or 40 years. So I'm not against doing things that are good. And I'm not here to attack or defend this particular issue that's come up. We need to clarify the issues, though. We need to define the facts because we've got a lot of people with different opinions, and everybody's very, very strong about that. So let's take a look at, here are some of the issues. Noise. Easy, right? We've got better equipment now. We just have to make that phase in so that our electric and our gas blowers do not make a lot of noise. And we're capable of doing that. So if you want to regulate there. Air quality caused by engines. The two-cycle engines are polluters. and that you can regulate also by putting in requirements for certifying these engines. So those are all technical problems. The other air quality issues that have to do with breathing air that have dust particles in them. It's the same for gas and electric, so that doesn't matter. Engine noises we can fix. Can I get through some of the rest of this?
Yeah, very quickly, Stan.
I'll do the best I can.
No, yeah, you got 15 seconds. Wind
Really?
it up.
Okay, there was a study done, and I sent copies, I believe, or Bill Miley did, to all the members of this council. And they had to do with a study where they took a container of air, covered it up with plastic, threw dust in, and used blowers. They used electric, they used gas, and they used rakes and brooms and everything. And you know what they found out at the other end of this debris being blown through this? That every one of those methods, including the brooms and everything else, all ended up at the other end of this test area with the same particulate matter.
Okay.
These PM.
Okay, thank you very much.
So,
Right. Lenny?
Leonard Clay, 412 North Fulton Street. Deborah Pendry's the only one who's made the most sense, talking about you have to look at the big picture. My good friend Stan, I can talk about you, not Stan, Pat, because you're my friend. A cost of owning a house with how many trees you've got includes cleaning it up responsibly. You can't expect to own a house of that size with that many trees and that beauty and expect me to pay for cleaning it up by having to breathe the air that comes from cleaning a place that big. There is a cost, and it just is. You go online, you spend 20 minutes online, you'll see incontrovertible proof that this stuff that's blowing around is deadly. The industry doesn't pretend otherwise. They try and minimize the damage by teaching people how to use it responsibly. But they don't argue about the fact that it's deadly. The tennis tournament, 1896, they did not have blowers. 1956, they didn't have blowers. They had a tennis tournament. The Ojai Valley Inn's going to spend $129,000. I don't know how many rounds of golf that they have at the inn where they charge $300, but if they charge $310, they can make the $129 back, and they can pay to get it cleaned up responsibly. David West was here the last time. He doesn't have any trees on his properties. He's blowing dirt around. Seriously.
Hard to take you seriously, but yeah, you're good though.
There's things, as I said, we can't fix everything by enacting this ordinance. If we waited till we could fix everything to fix anything, we'd never fix anything. This is a serious health issue. It's a serious quality of life issue. It's not being done helter-skelter. We've been talking about it for years. Let's finally enact it and take the lead and the forefront, as we have in so many environmental areas, and they'll catch up to us like they did with the bags. Thank you.
Thank you, Len. Okay. Steve Caliche.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council, and staff. I'd like to echo Bill Miley's request for a compromise here. I noted in the staff report it said among the cities that have some or a partial or complete ban, there were 4 things listed. A complete ban, banning gas blowers and not electric, having a noise limit, and having an hours of operation limit. The last 2, maybe the last 3, make a lot of sense to me. The gentleman who does my yard right now, and I refuse to confirm or deny that he uses a blower, wears a mask. Because if you take a stiff broom to my driveway, you're going to generate a lot of dust. We all, well, not all of us, but many of us saw a demonstration out here between 6 and 6:45 this evening of vacuums and street sweepers, and they all generate a lot of dust. So I think we're going to have to decide, do we want to move any dust? Do we want to move any leaves? Do we want to pick up leaves one at a time by hand? That'll certainly change the employment characteristics around here, but it'll also mean a lot of people out of work because homeowners can't afford that kind of method to pick up the leaves that are here. And most of the stuff that I saw demonstrated today could not be used in any area of my yard except where the dead grass is, and that's fortunately most of it, I guess. But the point is, it's green right now, but give it a month, it'll all be dead again. We need to take a common sense approach to this and not try to criminalize normal behavior by homeowners all over the city when there are so many exempted areas inside and outside the city that are not under the control of this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, Judy DeBoer? Judy's here? Yep. And we got Jim, is it Volks or Vocal? And on
Hi,
deck.
good evening. Most everything has been covered that I wanted to say, except I will just make a couple of points. One, a couple of references been made to the particulates, the problem being breathing it in. I had an experience where I walked through a dust cloud, a big one, coming off the park, and I ended up with a corneal abrasion. And I was at the ophthalmologist, and he says, "Where have you been?" And I said, and I didn't put the two together, and he said, "Did you walk through a dust cloud?" So it also affects vision. But my point I want to make is this, is that generally government's primary job is to protect health and safety. This is a health and safety issue. There are economic ramifications, there's no question. However, those, as some earlier, couple of speakers made the point that any economic ramifications need to be borne by the person using the services. The landscapers can raise their rates a little bit, and those who are using the service can pay for it. No one's going to be put out of a job. No businesses are going to close. Health and safety can't be bought. I mean, no one would disagree that health is is what we try to protect the most. So I would urge the council to adopt this ban that was agreed upon a while ago, and if there are going to be any exceptions, to limit them to those locations where we're not affected, and maybe at times of the day where we're not all going to hear it. I just want to make one point. I was raised around a lot of tennis courts, public and private, and I can remember them being kept clean with those big, wide, brooms, and kept dry the same way. They pushed the water off. As someone remarked earlier, trees have been around a long time, long before these convenience items, and several people have tried to pit convenience and practicality against health, and really there's really no argument there. We all want to have our job be as easy as possible, but I don't want to pay for it with my health, and I'm sure none of you do too. So I urge you to please accept the ordinance as written, maybe with a few modest exceptions, and we can move forward, protect everybody.
Thank you, Judy. Okay, it's Jim. Okay, I'm trying to read the name. Well, I'll take the last name. Yeah, Cole. What? Cole? Yeah. Is there a Cole in the audience? Oh, is that Janet? Is that what that? Oh, okay, sorry, I couldn't read the printing. Apologize.
But she went home?
What? Did she leave? Oh, okay, so who else is on deck then? Sorry.
Good
just one
evening, Mayor.
moment. Okay, Michael
Council
Shapiro is
members.
next.
My name is Jim Vorel, and I live on a 124-acre property with about 30 buildings in the city of Ojai. Can you guess what it is? I know. It's Crotona Institute. We have a lot of buildings there that were built in the 1920s. They have tile roofs. We can't walk on them to clean the roofs because the tile will break. So we have to try to find some way to clean them, and blowers is the easiest and most efficient way to do it. And all these houses have gutters also that need cleaned every year. We have parking lots for the public and for visitors who come to our facilities. But I'm also conflicted because we're installing a native plant garden right now, and we're finding that, and it's under oak trees, part of it is at least, and we're finding that the oak leaves that fall under the tree are the absolute best thing for those trees. They feed the trees, and without those leaves, the trees will eventually die. So it's important to have the leaves under the oak trees, their own leaves, for their survival. And so I hope eventually you'll all get a chance to see our garden. It's just getting installed now, and in about 3 years it'll be great. And we're also planning to do some public lectures and education programs related to that. And I'll tell you more about those later. But anyway, I'm conflicted. There's things we want to blow that's the most efficient and certainly easiest way for us to achieve the end that we want to achieve. But there's also a benefit to having them. We lost 7 of our big oak trees during this last rainstorm. I'm conflicted about, do we want to replant? Because the leaves, if we can't remove them from the areas where we want to remove them, then we might not replant. I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, Michael Shapiro, followed by Mike Borders.
Good evening, council members again. Michael Shapiro, Ojai. This is an issue of health. It's just pure and simple. That's what it is. It's an issue of health. Ojai Valley has the second worst air quality in Ventura County, as many of you know. Only Simi Valley has worse. There's no question, the data's in. Using leaf blowers, whether electric or gas, contributes to particulate matter. And one of the ingredients that our city representative earlier in his report, Greg, left out was one of the particulate matters that's in there causes death, disease. It's the microorganism that causes valley fever. I have had a friend in Ojai who died from valley fever some years ago, Ted Carty, one of the great environmentalists in town. So this is an issue of life and death. It's going to be coming again before the county, the issue of air quality. There's no question that almost every big industrial project that we've stopped in this valley, from Weldon Canyon, USA Petrochem, the freeway expansion, the trucks, those failed because the advocates for those projects knew they could not mitigate the increased air quality that those projects would would create. And there's now afoot in the county's revisit of the general plan. There is talk, and we have already organized to meet this challenge, that we need to, from CoLab, people that are pro-industry, pro-development, they want to lower the standards that Ojai has been given for air quality. Because if they could get in and not have to worry about mitigating adverse air quality, they will increase oil and gas exploration and drilling in this valley of ours, and other development that we, in the outside of the city limits, that we couldn't stop. So it's really important that we show the county that when it comes to air quality, we are serious in our own home, right here, in our own backyard. We will be serious, so they can't say that we are hypocritical. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Scott Eicher?
Good evening, Mayor and staff and council members. I'm conflicted too. Michael, you're right. We do have the second worst air quality. At the same time, I feel that it's a no-brainer to give the Ojai Tennis Tournament and the courts that it uses during its tournament an exemption to leaf blowers. I can't imagine anything more frightening than not being able to breathe correctly. And asthmatics who get hit with clouds from these leaf blowers experience that. Am I right, Cheyenne? At the same time, there are a lot of businesses that are using them now. The one-year phase-out will help. But perhaps, if you want the businesses to switch to vacuums, which again may not be, as we saw tonight, the best solution, perhaps the city could give them some sort of an incentive. One of the gardeners suggested a buyback solution with some of the blowers, but possibly a tax incentive somehow to other businesses to switch to vacuums. I don't like leaf blowers. I see them all the time. I often cannot drive to work with my windows down in the spring because people are blowing leaves off of dirt sidewalks, which just befuddles me. At the same time, I know there are plenty of people that use them and use them responsibly, but you cannot deny that they throw things up into the air and that we do have the worst air quality. I just think that we do need to come with some sort of a compromise. The one-year work-in is helpful, but again, some sort of an incentive to help people move from blowers to suckers or blowers. I mean, vacuums would be probably one of the best ways to work this through. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. Is there Luis? Is that or Ortega? I can't read.
Looks like Ortega. Yeah, Ortega.
Yeah.
Luis.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay.
Buenas noches todos.
Good evening, everyone.
Mi nombre es Luis Arriaga.
My name is Luis Arriaga.
20 La Crosse.
I live at 20 La Crosse.
Ya tiene como 2 años o va para 3 años. Estamos hablando de esto.
This has been going on for 2 to 3 years. We've been talking about this.
Nos traen preocupados.
You keep us worried.
No nada más a mí, a todos.
Not just me and all my colleagues.
Miré la herramienta que nos mostraron ahí.
I noticed those tools that you showed us outside.
Esa herramienta a nosotros no nos ayuda para nuestro trabajo.
Those tools do not help us with our work.
Por eso les pedimos, por favor,
That's why we're asking you to please
que tomen una buena decisión.
make a good decision.
Y ya escuché a todas las personas que están a contra.
I've listened to everyone against
A
it
causa del polvo, y ya estamos
because of the dust.
Ya no sabemos si es el humo.
Now we're all confused. We don't know if you're talking about dust or smoke.
No sabemos qué.
We don't know what.
En las primeras juntas que tuvimos,
During the first few meetings that we had,
compañero Abel,
Abel,
él les mostró
my colleague,
las cosas o accidentes que pueden pasar.
show you those accidents that could take place if we use the electrical ones. He brought you a lot of information about that.
También les mostramos en 2, 3 ocasiones.
We also showed you in 2 or 3 occasions
Blowers resultaron más
that the
ruidosas que la
electrical
herramienta nueva.
blowers
Los blowers que se
are
sacaron
not as
hace como 2
efficient
años.
as those new blowers that just came out in the last 2 years.
Creíamos que nos iban a dejar la blower nueva que
We
sacaron,
thought you were going to allow the new
porque
blower
según esa pasaba la ley.
because supposedly that complied with the law.
Y yo no tengo estudio,
I didn't go to
Por eso soy
school.
jardinero.
That's why I'm a gardener.
por eso estoy peleando que
That's
con-
why I'm
con esta
fighting, because I need
sopladora de
those
gas,
tools. I need the
porque la
gas
ocupamos.
blower because I use it.
herramienta. Imagínense que yo tengo un problema, que miro a un hombre, un ejemplo,
Imagine this, and this is just an example.
que miro a un hombre que está atrás de mi yarda,
Were I to
escondiendo
see
ya de un
a
lado, y
man
llamo a la policía,
behind my yard
y llega un
and I
policía
call the police and the police come
con pistola
with the gun
y saca su pistola para ver
and
dónde
the
está.
gun
Y
gets
le digo,
pulled
por
out
favor, detente,
and I
porque
say,
quiero
wait,
un
wait,
policía que
wait,
no traiga
wait.
pistola.
I want a policeman without a gun.
Se supone que lleva su pistola.
He's supposed to have a gun because he uses it for his work.
Los jardineros estamos hablando
We gardeners are talking about The blowers, the gas blowers, because we use it.
Cualquier persona estamos hablando por lo
Any one of us is talking about what we
Por
use.
favor, les pedimos a
Please, we're asking you, all of you,
tomen muy en cuenta
really
Lo que vayan a hacer.
take into account what
Porque
you're
si
going
la
to be
ley la
doing,
ponen
because if you apply this law,
que no puedan usar la sopladora,
the one about not being able to use the blower,
ustedes también van a ser afectados. Los
you're
ciudadanos
also going to
en-
be
en
affected.
sus lugares
You
que
city
limpian,
people are going to be affected because those places you clean,
usan la sopladora.
you use the blowers.
O ustedes la van a usar.
Or are you
y
going to
nosotros
use it and we're not going to use it?
Okay, well, thank
¿Qué es
you.
lo que va a pasar?
Yeah.
What's going to happen?
Okay.
Gracias, señor.
Discriminación.
That's discrimination.
Y es racismo.
And that's racist.
Vamos a investigar.
We're going to do
Y
some
si
research.
pasa esa ley por
And if
personas que están
that
protestando,
law
que la ponga
is
la ley, que no nos
approved
dejen usar
because
la
of
sopladora,
those people that are against it, and if
si
you're not going to
podemos hacer
use it, if we can do
vamos a
something,
hacer.
we're going to do it.
Okay.
Y disculpen si les dije
And
algo
I
que no vaya,
apologize if I
porque
said
como les digo,
something
no tengo
improper.
No,
I told you I didn't go to school, so
Pero
I
piensen en
apologize. But think
Thank
through
you.
this.
You had time.
Gracias.
Appreciate it. Steve Colome. Followed by Severa Lara. Mayor Severa Lara. Once a mayor, always a mayor, Severa. And they never let you forget it, do they? Or me, yeah.
Council members, it's actually painful following that last presentation. I have great sympathy for the hardworking Hispanic workers who largely are the ones that maintain our yards and gardens. But I'll also point out that they are the ones who are incurring the greatest risk to their health from the immediate impact, particularly with gas blowers, of the carcinogens and other dangerous compounds that are within their breathing zone. They're at risk of heart and lung disease, cancer, and premature mortality because of that exposure. Now, I bring some news, and I'm actually changing my statement the order because I only have the 2 minutes. As Mr. Grant indicated, in the state of California, within 3 years, the sum total of all lawn and garden equipment is going to exceed the emissions of all of our passenger motor vehicles. This is a sort of surprising finding, but I just got off the phone earlier this week with Mike Benjamin, who is a California Air Resources Board Division Chief, who said that in order to meet air quality standards, it's going to be necessary to reduce dramatically the emissions from off-road spark engines, which are the type of engines that power particularly the gas blowers. This is going to mean that all small gardening equipment will need to be battery operated in the state of California. That is the way the California Air Resources Board is going. There will be no more gas-powered blowers within a decade. I think there are other zero-emission other cities, such as South Pasadena, and cities that Mr. Grant did not mention, that have committed themselves to zero-emission equipment for municipal facilities and have achieved congressional acknowledgement for their activities. I have a number of things that I think we can do as a win-win proposition, but I had a 3-minute presentation and I've only gotten 2.
I would respectfully request that he get his extra minute.
Well, again, this is in line of some of the things that we can do with our gardeners. I think that to make this a win-win proposition, one of the first things that we can do is, for the well-being of our largely Hispanic professional gardeners, let's initiate a real green gardener training and certification program, something similar to what's being done currently in the city of Santa Barbara. Let's work with the Ventura County Air Pollution Control District on equipment buybacks, including things like the Carl Moyer program, and they've got several other incentive programs, but they haven't initiated an exchange for battery-powered equipment. Let's seek foundation grants to support a viable training program and ongoing certification for our gardening community, and make a commitment in this city to green, sustainable yard maintenance. Again, something similar to what they're doing in Santa Barbara. Let's be serious with whatever restrictions we impose about enforcement. Let's not keep waffling back and forth about enforcing or not enforcing. I'll just mention this. Let's adopt the South Coast Air Quality Rule 403, which the California Landscape Contractors Association has encouraged. But I'll leave it at that because I've picked up the 3rd minute.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
I would like a copy of that, Steve.
Okay, Severa.
Sure.
Mayor Johnson, members of the council, and welcome, Chief, and everybody. I do want to commend you guys, first of all, for your hard work. This is extremely difficult to make an educated decision, the right decision, and then also incorporate the needs of our citizens. Now, I am a landscape contractor, but I like to refer myself as a gardener. I took over a family business about 10 years ago, and I made it a goal of mine to see if we could transition from conventional gardening to a more what we're calling green gardening service. And throughout this 10 years, it's been extremely difficult to do. I'm not going to admit it. I'm going to admit it, that it's just been hard to compete. And during that transition, I still use equipment to incorporate permaculture techniques, biodynamic techniques, which provide us with healthy soil, healthy air, healthy food in general. And I still use a lawnmower, I use a weed whacker, I use edger, chainsaw, and a blower. Those are all essential tools to me. If you're using them in the correct way under those concepts, I'm able to be more efficient. And like Deborah says, it's kind of hard because our line of work, I feel like we're targeting one piece of equipment when in reality, like Mr. Colomé said, it's all the small off-road, small engine equipment that it is scary to think, and he is presenting factual evidence that it will supersede the emissions. So that's something we can't deny. I think that moving towards a low emission, or if there's technology out there to really support battery or electrical, I think that's a good compromise. I think he's come with some good options for the council to really dive into, because it's just not the gardening, it's just not landscape that's producing all this dust, all these emissions. It's a slew of things. So it's kind of difficult for me to just target one engine when it's a lot. And I just want to offer that I hope you guys are flexible in looking at this ordinance and adding options, not only for us as gardeners, but also as our residents of this community, and set an example for the same people that are doing the work in this community, also doing work in our valley. And I think that if we do adopt an effective policy that could help us transition to a more eco-friendly equipment, it could be transferred to the county areas. So thank you, Mayor Johnson, and
Thank you,
members of the
Severa.
council.
Appreciate your, Chuck Crawford? Sorry.
Thank you. I'm Chuck Crawford. I've been in the valley since 1980. I want to remind people of the health. I grew up in the Inland Empire, and we started our day with a little pennant that rose above the American flag. It was either red, yellow, or green. Schools in session, no recess, or schools out. So I know about air quality, and I know that air quality is spoken here. And I'd like to say that with respect to the people of the community, I always tease about the 8,000 people that live here, because if you try and make a left turn anywhere on this street, there's more than 8,000 people here, okay? So to get real, we no longer have 3 flags in the Inland Empire, and it's because of a collective effort. It's not the steel industry, which we were accused of. I've seen the bigger report that air quality did, that we're in a regional environment from Point Conception all the way to San Diego, and we all affect each other. I appreciate the demonstration today, and that's why I came, because I saw in the Landscape Contractor magazine that you were exclusive in being a first. And so I brought the flag, or the article, and they asked to use my vacuum. and I brought the vacuum. The vacuum is a tool. I don't use it for cleaning up. I use it for mulching those leaves so that they are reduced, usually 8 to 1, and put right back where I just had them. Okay, so they're not leaving the property. And that leads me to the cultural practices in landscaping. Because if you go right up the street over by the art school, there's Canary Island pines over there. And if you want to talk about air pollution, stand around those because they have a lot of pollen that come off of those trees. The streets are yellow that come off of that. Has nothing to do with us. That's cultural. So there's more to this, and I would like to boil it down to simply having the people in this industry accountable. And I would like to say that we have been. As we've talked, those electric blowers didn't exist years ago. The gas blowers that we're using now didn't exist. The chippers, all the equipment is meeting the noise requirements, is meeting the pollution standards. And a simple thing that I've done with mine is I put red tape on the end of my blower. And why did I do that? Because if a little kid can be misconstrued as having a toy gun or a real gun, that backpack blower, as people have pointed out, is an issue. And so that red dot reminds me there's something on the other end, and I'm using that tool respectively. It's a simple thing. I've brought it up to the industry because ultimately everybody's talked about using it, but it does need to be respectful, and collectively the industry will change. So, thank you.
Thank you, Chad. Okay, that's all the cards I got. You did? Yeah, let's see, Chuck. Well, come on down. I have to be.
Linda Harmon, 412 North Fulton. And I almost didn't come tonight because I thought, oh, we've been talking about this for so long, and they've written the ordinance, it'll get passed. I'm glad I came. I just can't. I heard what Deborah said, and I want to echo everything she said. And I keep thinking of my mother who just passed away at 97. She kept her own yard. I keep my own yard. She never owned a leaf blower. She had a big property. She had a big deck. She had a big driveway, and she managed to keep all those clean. And I think this is one small piece. It's one of those ideas of the low-hanging fruit. This is something is in our grasp to do to improve our air quality. There's a lot of things we can't do. This is one small thing we can do. And to say it's going to be hard is an understatement after listening to everybody. But it seems to me if you can afford to pay for a gardener, which a lot of people apparently do in Ojai, you ought to be able to afford a few more dollars so that the air we breathe is cleaner. Our kids don't have to ride their bikes through that smuts all the time. We don't have to hike through it. It seems a very small price to pay to me. And I think a leaf blower ban in total makes the most sense because I have failed to see anybody enforce what we had when we're supposed to be using electric blowers. I see gas blowers all over town. And as far as giving people an exemption, I agree. Like I said, my mom managed to keep her property. We kept our properties for years without them, and they've been proven to be detrimental to our health. Why do we need to give an exemption for a sport that's supposed to be encouraging people to be physically fit? I just think that's bizarre. I'm sorry. I would rather pay someone a few extra dollars to use a broom, a push broom, or whatever it took for the city. If it's going to increase our costs, I would hope we could afford to go for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Okay, is there anyone else that I missed or got misfiled? Okay, I apologize for that.
Can I have my 1 minute? Just
Okay, yeah, come on up.
I just looked it up. It's kind of funny. I just looked it up, and the air quality here in Ojai is 39. I was just down in Los Angeles, actually down in South Pasadena. Kind of funny. Someone mentioned that. And it has the beautiful San Gabriel Mountains right there, and there's a beautiful brown haze covering them. So I definitely don't want to see that here in Ojai. But I question, are we talking, and I don't really know. I really don't know. Are we talking air quality with regards to pollen?
Because if that's the case, the citrus and the oak pollen, I mean, you can smell it. I mean, it's in the air, dust and grime and what have you on the streets and whatnot. I totally get that, but that's not cause and effect with respect to, you know, the gas-powered leaf blowers and what have you. Somebody also said, you know, hey, the tennis courts, you know, in 18 whatever didn't have leaf blowers, this, that, and the other. I played tennis. Probably can't tell, but I played tennis for many years before leaf blowers as well, and we had basically slip and falls at that point because there was debris left on the tennis courts.
I missed what you just said. What did you used to do?
I played tennis.
No. What did you do about the debris?
We didn't do anything about it. I don't know. I mean, the schools would basically take care of it, but it wasn't done on a regular basis and what have you.
Sorry.
Slip and fall. Slip and fall. If there's debris, you know,
heard it from the
particulate
attorney,
sands
right?
and what have you. You know, I look at the total ban, and again, I want to emphasize that's less than 1% of the cities in California, not including the counties. And those cities that I found were like Santa Monica and Laguna Beach. Santa Monica, that's an asphalt jungle. I just don't see the comparison there. So in looking at these things, I just, you know, maybe it's not something they have to really think hard about, but just try to figure out exactly where we fit in that category.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to call a 5-minute recess. If the rest of you don't need it, I do, so. Right, and then we will continue.
Good.
Call the meeting back to order. Yeah, pull up a chair, Stan.
Turn the air on. Still on? It's gonna get hot in here.
Yeah, it is. Okay, we're back. Where's our, there are city managers. Okay, everyone's back, okay. Well, we're back in session, and we will take the matter under advisement by the council. Any further questions of staff?
Is the public hearing closed, Mr. Mayor?
It was never a formal public hearing, but I believe the public comment period is closed.
Yeah. So the answer, Paul, is no.
I have questions of staff. I have questions of staff, and maybe staff and members of the audience can answer. I would like to know if at the demonstration tonight, we saw the top-of-the-line technology in vacuum cleaners, in home equipment, because Greg Grant said that, you know, he wasn't able to gather that, you weren't able, could you address that? Because I don't want people, I mean, we're left with the impression, actually, that a lot of these vacuum, the vacuum technology produces as much or even more dust than the leaf blowers, and I was very surprised to see that.
So I'm sorry, the question is?
The question is, can you, you mentioned that you were not able to get a response or the, I think we need to know if what we saw tonight was really the top-of-the-line technology.
State of the art.
State of the art.
I think that the one I stated was the state of the art is the machine that was the QV, that's the Billy Goat quiet vacuum, the quiet vacuum. So that's pretty much the state of the art. There is some handheld blowers that are low noise, and I think all of them are going to have an issue with dust. I don't think it would have changed that much, and but certainly it was all about that. It's a filter. It's a big filter bag, and the way you maintain that and operate it is a big issue. So that one that we saw was a cleaner, newer looking one. It was less than 6 months old. That's basically state of the art, and just like with blowers. There's noisy blowers that are poorly operated. You can still buy a vacuum that's noisy and poorly operated, and the filter's not maintained properly. The one that we borrowed that was state-of-the-art had a tear in it, and we sewed it up to make sure that hole wasn't in that in the bag.
Okay, so one of the reasons I ask is I'm thinking of I still would like to see how a homeowner, the average homeowner who wants to just quickly clean their patio, if those how those vacuums work. So we didn't get to see that, right?
I think that it's important it wasn't emphasized out there, but I think that really the vast majority of people would use rakes and brooms.
Yes.
I think that that's technology out there, but it isn't going to do what most people are looking for. Mostly you're going to use rakes and brooms, and you might use that technology a little bit. I mean, it's certainly in parking lots you would use it, possibly on tennis courts and places like that. But in yards, I think it's minimal.
Okay,
I think it's really more of an East Coast technology. That's where they're selling a lot of these type of things. They get a big leaf dump in 1 month. They can't leave it out for the snow to pack it and ruin their grass, so they pick up a lot of leaves real quick at one time.
Okay, thank you. Would it be okay to ask if there's any other people in the audience that are experts on this subject that could, because I would really like to know if there is technology out there that doesn't pollute as much as a leaf blower.
Okay. So is your question, is there someone here in the house that has a...
Yeah.
If you want to ask the question.
Yeah, there might not be, but maybe there are people that know more about this. Okay, evidently not. Oh, there's some hands raised.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, why don't we have, it looks like there's more than one, but...
Just a quick comment. I just want to mention that if we're going to have to use brooms and rakes, we're going to have to go in there and work faster, and we're still going to lift up dust.
Okay, we're aware of that. Thank you. Yeah.
So the question is, I assume you're probably thinking that Steve called me, isn't he? spokesperson.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Steve, are you still here? Would you like to address Susan's question?
Just briefly, and I didn't say this in my comments, but I'd sent a private comment to Mr. Grant indicating that I was both disappointed in the omissions and errors of the staff report, but also grossly disappointed in what I saw a week ago as the demonstration. I mean, it essentially was all equipment that I would call yard sale equipment. Not the best and not the most modern. I think I've sent to all of the council members a note from the South Pasadena experience, and I learned about that this week actually from a division chief at the California Air Resources Board who indicated that in South Pasadena they were doing some very proactive things, and there have been some equipment demonstrations there where all of the equipment looked brand new and fancy, as opposed and works. It's quieter, it's more efficient, most of it's battery operated, and it is out there and it is available. In terms of process, because this has been one of my big complaints about all of this, we have asked repeatedly that there either be a workshop or that we be allowed to assist in the planning of a demonstration, and that offer has never been accepted. And I've told Mr. Grant that to do an effective small-scale demonstration, I've been involved in many professional trade shows, it takes a long lead time. You need to set a date some 6 months ahead and then start inviting people. That wasn't done. This was just done on the spur of the moment. I think it was offensive, frankly, that there was a piece of equipment that was shown that was loud and dusty, and that piece of equipment is illegal to sell in the state of California because it does not meet CARB standards.
Mr. Mayor, so am I to understand what you're saying? You would support a ban on leaf blowers, but not on vacuums?
No, I didn't say that. I think what is coming on all of us, I mean, the train has left the station, is that lawn and garden equipment is going to go to battery-operated status. We're going to start seeing the Volts and the Teslas of lawn and garden equipment. That's the direction that things are going.
Then I'm a little confused. Are you saying that you would support the Teslas of lawn and gardening equipment? So that if it's an electric blower, you're supporting it, but not a gas blower?
No, and I didn't say that. I mean, I think in terms of blowers, I mean, it was only 15 or 20 years ago when we weren't using blowers at all. Hand tools were considered sufficient to do just about everything in this town and other towns. There are other quality towns like Los Gatos that just a little over a year ago enacted a ban specifically on gas blowers. I think that's a start. And you've got your emissions from those blowers, and they're problematic. In general, the electric blowers don't have the same throat exit velocities that the gas blowers do, and so that's going to generate visually and actually a lower amount of dust. If those manufacturers all of a sudden say, we're going to match the exit velocities of a gas blower, you're going to have exactly the same dust and air pollution problem.
Okay. And then one last question, if I could, Mr. Mayor. Based on your experience and training and education, if we had had the absolute latest state-of-the-art equipment out here tonight, what would we have seen?
Well, you would actually have seen some good rakes and brooms be demonstrated, number one. Number two, you probably would have seen some battery-operated blowers that could be used in certain circumstances. And there is an array of better equipment than we saw demonstrated out there that has the bag filters that it's not going to look like what you saw out there where dust was coming out of the filters. It's just an engineering design question. It can be done. Equipment manufacturers are going in that direction. And I think if we wanted to take a leadership in this city, we could be on the cusp of that.
Thank you.
So, one more question. If my colleagues approve, could we, whatever we decide tonight, would you be willing to do a presentation like you had wanted to do in the past? If we made sure that we, put that on the calendar?
Well, I'm not sure, I mean, you mean a
Yeah,
demonstration of equipment?
6 months from now, we could organize another demonstration. Yeah, no, but I don't know, if whatever we decide, it seems like people need to be aware of the best technology available.
There is a group that is active, that was involved in the South Pasadena example, which was a municipal example. They're now a commercial operation, and I'm sure that if we simply contacted them, they'd be willing to, at some stage of this, participate.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any, I see a hand in the back.
Did we open this up for public comments?
We never had a public hearing. This is just,
I just wanted to clarify as to the other cities that I spoke to that do have the total bans on both gas and electric leaf blowers, that they're using technology other than what was shown today, which was, I think, the quiet vac, right? So there is other technology that is being used successfully in these other cities. And I'd be happy to prepare all that information for Mr. Grant so that he could share that with you. Also, as to the demonstration, I put this forth months ago, that I'd spoken to many manufacturers, and they were all ready to come and show their wares. So it's not that difficult to get them to come here to do that. So I think that that might be helpful to see what else is being used. I know that in Hermosa, it's another brand completely that's extremely successful. So shall I do that?
well,
Yeah.
I'm
Will you
sure
drop me an
can-
email? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have
Okay,
a
we gotta
question.
get
I
under
have
control here.
ma'am, ma'am.
we have a question.
I have the same question for you.
Okay.
So you're saying that if we went to an alternative like South Pasadena, you could support that?
Explain to me what is in South Pasadena.
You just said that there's equipment that they're using in South
No, I
Pasadena.
didn't. I said Hermosa. I was saying the other
Hermosa
city.
then.
Yeah, Hermosa is
You could
one
support
city.
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Apparently, the outfits that are hired by the cities that have the total bans are making more money than they were before because the vacuums are working quicker. They're employing more people because they're working quicker, so they get to do more jobs. So I'd like to support that information and give it to you.
Right, but I'm
If-
saying you could, if this council were to decide that we were going to put off, for instance, a decision tonight,
Mhm.
and we were going to look at whatever technology you're referring to in Hermosa,
Mm-hmm.
you'd be coming back here and supporting it.
Yes, I'd be supporting it, meaning that I would be bringing those manufacturers to you
No,
to
no,
show
you'd
the
be,
wares.
you'd be supporting us allowing those.
Allowing the vacuums, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I misunderstood also, Councilmember Blatz. I thought you meant you wanted her to make the arrangement, but, so I'm glad for that clarification, that you would support using that technology. Thank
Yes,
you.
definitely. Apparently, it's very successful.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, everybody. We'll scoop through the chair from this point forward to see if we can bring some, okay. Are there other questions amongst the council? If not, does somebody have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I do have some comments. I don't have any questions. I can't support, and I voted for the process that we're here tonight about when I voted for the interim ban with the 1-year waiting period, because I was very interested in seeing, I thought that would bring forward alternate technologies during the course of this, through the year. And what I saw out there tonight was probably worse than the blowers as far as I was concerned. And I can't see any way that I could vote for a total ban on leaf blowers if we're not going to do a total ban on vacuums, because, as I said, I think they were worse. I also want to say that we have a responsibility to the health and safety of our community, of course. But if we were really looking strictly at the health and safety of our community, we wouldn't have any cars. You know, we wouldn't have any buses, we wouldn't have any motorcycles, we wouldn't have any trucks, we wouldn't have our trolley. You know, we wouldn't have lawnmowers, chainsaws, fireplaces, the orchard windmills. We wouldn't have any, and of course, we wouldn't have any pollen in the valley. And we wouldn't have any lawnmowers. We cut down all the trees so there could be no pollen. And then, of course, we wouldn't have leaf blowers. So we're looking at a section of our community that I think is tremendously ill-affected by this. And it's an ethnic group that is highly affected by legislation, and I have a hard time doing that. I think we can regulate it. I think we can pay attention to noise. I think we can pull back the hours of operation. I see no way that I could support a total ban at this point because I see nothing that we have as an alternative to the lawn blowers. So, Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we adopt an ordinance that implements low-noise gas blowers, that it implements electric blowers, that commercial use of any of the blowers can only be from Monday through Friday from 9 to 12, 9 a.m. to noon, and then homeowners could only use their blowers from Monday through Sunday from 9 a.m. till noon.
Could we continue with our discussion?
Well, do we have a second to the motion? Yeah. Does anyone second that?
I'll second that for discussion.
All right.
I have a question on the motion.
Okay, proceed.
Does your motion also contemplate a licensing and equipment certification system?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. My turn? Is it? Can I make,
No.
are you finished?
Would you have a question?
So we have a motion on the table, so I'll explain why I cannot support that motion. First of all, I'd like to just share that my father was a gardener back in the late 60s, late 50s, 60s. I used to traipse along with him. So I know what it's like to do garden. You know, we were a family that we were very poor, and we depended on his wages. So I have sympathy for the economics that some of you are faced with. But I think the very best thing that we can do for the health of the workers, not just our community health, but the health of the workers, is to not use any equipment that requires that they wear a mask, that requires that they breathe dust. So that's one of my first reasons why I can't support that motion. Secondly, with what I know about the earth, what's happening to the soil, I cannot support using leaf blowers on any area involving plants or dirt. Okay, I could support an amendment. The only compromise that I could support would be to use the very best technology that's available in large areas such as the tennis courts, although I would hope that, for youth tennis, the kids could learn to push a broom. I would be, would look at some exemptions. But I think what Deborah Pendry said about economics versus ecology, I can't think off the top of my head exactly what she said, but economics should not be the driving force of this, okay? And we've all agreed if economics was the reason that we did things, we wouldn't have, there's many things we wouldn't do in Ojai, like the chain store ban or banning STRs, all of that has economic benefit. Whatever we decide tonight, I think it's imperative that the city lead by example, that we start, because perhaps if I, you know, if the council that's sitting here doesn't want to ban leaf blowers, perhaps we could agree that what we need is education, that we could do, I would like to see an exact handout. This is on the Santa Barbara website. It's called Working with Your Gardener for a Healthy Garden. It explains green practices. We need a green certification. You know, we need to promote, as a city, landscaping practices. What we want to really promote is a more natural-looking city. We need to stop this mindset of picking up every leaf on the ground. We need to see that leaves themselves make a nice path. You know, so all of that is in my mind as one of there's probably hundreds more reasons why I can't support the motion as it stands now.
Mayor Pro Tem?
A couple comments, if.
Right. Is it, did you make the motion originally?
I did not make the motion. I did not make it, and I did not second it. I asked a question about the motion.
No, I'm speaking of the original one that brought us here tonight.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I did make a motion in 1998.
I believe Betsy.
Betsy did, and Bill seconded the last motion.
Okay.
I made a motion to ban leaf blowers in 1998.
Okay, thank you. No, I wasn't looking for the
Gas-powered
entire
leaf-
history. I was just trying
gas-powered leaf blowers.
I'm just trying to figure out how we got here this evening. I sat in the audience and listened to about 2.5 hours worth of this similar conversation and testimony, went back in September, and it started out repealing an existing prohibition against two-stroke engines, I believe, and it ended up a motion that was unanimously passed to ban, which was totally confusing to me in the audience, except for the purpose of maybe getting the item off the table. And what I see here before us could have been back 2 weeks later to the council for this discussion, but here we are 5.5 months later. I'm not sure what was done in between, but as a new member of the council, along with Sousa, I hadn't followed, well, you go back to the 90s, but I had not been following all of what has gone on, and so I am a little baffled between the two different approaches to this, and now we have yet another one. And when I requested that maybe this not be on the agenda, in which case we'd had nothing on the agenda tonight, but we were originally coming here for 2 public hearings, which at the last minute we learned had to be put off because of a publication problem. So here we are, now not dealing with what's on the agenda specifically, but a total substitute motion, which is certainly in order, but it just seems like we're back where we started, where we're trying to craft legislation sitting in a council meeting as opposed to having crafted legislation in a negotiating session of sorts. What I see here is that we have different objectives. There are people who don't like the noise and the inconvenience. There are people who don't like the dust and the inconvenience, but then there are people who don't like the pollution aspects of this. If we repeal anything to do with two-stroke engines, seems to me we're going in the opposite direction that we started out. But it is true that they now don't make as much noise. So it seems to me that this is not the best way in which to create legislation to go one direction and to totally reverse our field. I have to say that when I watched the demonstration out there, and I'm not saying this was deliberate, but it didn't look like there were a lot of companies trying to sell us equipment of any sort. Well, maybe there was one. It mostly was stirring up dust and gave the appearance as though, hey, you think that's bad? Let me show you something worse. You know, okay, that may not have been what was going on, but it didn't give me a sense that we have done the best we can at recognizing what the state-of-the-art technology is available, what it costs, what it's going to cost to enforce this sort of thing, and how we would adapt it to Councilman Blatt's latest motion, and I don't expect him to be able to do that on the fly either. So seems to me that maybe we would be better off, and I hate to be the one to say this, because I sat at home watching you, watching all of us, or people like myself, with kicking the can down the road, but it seems like to suddenly try to redraw this entire thing, rather than follow what was on the agenda, which admittedly, new information, new circumstance, maybe it's a bad idea, but it just seems like if Mr. Colme has made an offer to have this stuff demonstrated, he seems highly knowledgeable on the subject. There are other people here who are the people who have to figure out how to make this work. I guess I was a little disturbed when I saw in the report, going down through the exemptions. If this is possible, this is a bad analogy, but I used to have someone work for me in the IT department who used to say, yeah, this is going to be great software, and I assure you, because we always taste our own dog food before we sell it, and I thought, oh, good, okay, well, I think the city of Ojai should, at the very least, we don't need an ordinance or a law to tell us to do the things that seem like are being proposed as an alternative, and maybe we should be doing that in parallel with this whole legislation, where we see what's practical. If we're going to immediately exempt ourselves, I've had a lot of citizens who are on both sides of the issue, but the thing that offends them most is that we're not, putting ourselves under the same law we're enacting for others. So it seems like this needs a little more work to see if we can come up with a better crafted, if it's going to be a compromise. This on the agenda there wasn't a compromise in that, but if that's what we're proposing to do, then we need to do that with more deliberation than we're going to be able to do at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night. So, Randy?
Actually, Mayor, by the way, in 1998 was the first time I ever spoke to council. And it was over the same issue, and at that time, too, I thought it was racist that we were going after a piece of equipment that a specific group of individuals used. I also thought it was racist in the fact that the fact that they gave the two-stroke motorboat people 10 years to retool their motors, and they were giving the Hispanic community, 6 months to ban their blowers. So I thought that there was, if it was a bunch of white folk with blowers on their backs, we might be having a different conversation at the time. That was my take then. That was 1998. And I remember you, Susie, you were as adamant about blowers then as you are now.
What's your take now?
So a couple things, and that's what it is. We initiated, before I was on council, they were having this blower discussion, and we actually went outside and we had a demonstration on noise. It's a noise ordinance. Next thing you know, we leave that demonstration, we come in here, a multitude of people speak on noise, and next thing you know, another segment of the community comes up and they start talking about air pollution. So the next thing you know, the noise ordinance gets hijacked by the pollution, and that's why we're kind of here today, is we're still in a noise ordinance, yet we're talking about air pollution.
Right. Didn't you vote on the one that directed staff to produce this?
Actually, that's where I'm going to. The motion that was made the night of this ban, we had already set in motion the same thing that Mr. Blatz had, Councilman Blatz had brought up tonight. We had brought up a list of parameters. We had discussed about training. We discussed about limiting the activities of the blowers. We talked about a number of things that were brought up.
Right, but
and again, it was hijacked on pollution. So.
Did you not vote to do this? Or maybe did you recuse yourself?
I voted for it to come back for the same reasons as we had a year to get a sense of where we were going as a council with this, and.
So you're for banning it for 1 year, or with a 1 year lead-in?
Actually, it had to come back for a discussion, and that's what we're having tonight. So if we want to vote on this ban, I'd be more than welcome to vote again on this ban, and I would vote no.
Okay, but you voted yes last time, that's why we're here, right?
That's okay.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out what this all means, because I thought we had a unanimous vote to bring this here, and then maybe to tweak it. I mean, I don't disagree with a lot of things that were said that say that this isn't necessarily the greatest way to approach this, but if we're going to compromise it, are we going to try to recraft it or substitute something going the exact opposite way tonight?
Yeah, I was under the same impression that we would make some exemptions, not necessarily the city, but some reasonable, in my mind, to my way of thinking, reasonable exemptions. And not with gas-powered leaf blowers, but with electric or battery, and that could be revisited if as technology improves, but, using the best technology.
Well, this may, be putting a gun to my head, but I believe a motion to postpone temporarily is in order. Mr. City Attorney, is that right?
Well,
Wait a second, yeah, but you can, that would be the motion that would be being here's what I'm going to propose, is that if we're going to totally recraft this, which it sounds like is what the council plans to do, let's postpone it and have Mayor Pro Tem and me, that's the part where I'm putting the gun to my head, but the two of us meet with the city manager, the public works director, and there have been several people on both sides of this issue that seem to be very well informed, and we sit down at a table and see if there is any way to do this.
I understand that to be a substitute motion to that effect.
Okay.
You do have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Platt, seconded by Councilmember Haney, to introduce an ordinance that would lift the present ban and allow electric low-noise blowers Monday through Friday, 9 to noon, and at homes, Monday through Sunday, 9 to noon, with a license and certification system, which I assume to be an annual license and certification system. Given the complexity of drafting that, I understand that motion to be a motion to direct staff to return at the next meeting or the next available meeting with an ordinance to that effect for introduction that night. That's what I understand is the motion on the floor. There was a second. Your motion, Mr. Mayor, is a substitute motion, which is in order if you receive a second and then would be voted on first. If approved as a substitute motion, that would replace the prior motion.
Mr. Mayor, may I address this, the attorney? That's correct, except my motion also included low noise, low pollution gas blowers.
Thank you for the clarification.
Mm-hmm. So is there anyone else who?
Do we need a second for the mayor's motion? Or what?
Yes, the mayor's motion would require a second if that is what you wish.
I'll second.
Okay.
So as a substitute motion, the vote on that is in order first. If approved, that would replace the prior motion.
Mm-hmm. Does anyone want to talk about it? If not, call the roll.
I'll just make a comment, Mr. Mayor. I've been on this council since 2010, and we've talked to this ad infinitum. I voted for what's before us tonight in October because I really wanted to see what could come forward with alternate technology, because I was concerned and I was interested in the comments made by the people that came here as well as outside about the air pollution. And I've seen nothing that has come forward, in my opinion, that we could really substantively replace leaf blowers with. And I also, since that time, have been through an election where I walked many, many neighborhoods where I was grilled as to why I would ever vote to ban leaf blowers in this city. And in talking to those people, they made a lot of sense. That as a homeowner, if they want to blow off their deck, how can we tell them they can't do that when maybe the neighbor 2 blocks away can because he's in the county? That's the only thing that I have to say, and that's why I made this motion tonight. I think that by limiting the hours, that takes away a lot of the problems that some of the people have had we heard comments about not being able to put your laundry out. Well, if we know that you can't use them afternoon, there's plenty of time in the afternoon you can do things. I felt that bringing it down, limiting it to only 3 hours for the commercial use can allow the landscapers to come in, get their job done, and be out, and by noon they can be doing other things. Okay. That's my comment.
Yes, please.
Councilmember Francina?
Are we having a roll call, or are we?
There would be a roll call on the motion I made that we were discussing. Would you like to?
No, I just want to make sure I understand the specific wording of the substitute motion.
Well, the substitute motion was basically to postpone temporarily, that is not to kill the motion on the table, and kind of go back to the drawing board a little bit based on what we've heard here tonight, and trying to get that state-of-the-art stuff that is a little better organized, if possible, and see if there's some reasonable compromise to start addressing what is both a health and a nuisance problem. I don't know that we can do that, but
I want to make sure I understand the wording of the motion. I heard you say not to kill. Does that mean you're, in a sense, the substitute motion is to table rather than, is that the sense of it, is to basically lay on the table the other motion?
And then
is that the right way to say it?
That is the right way to say it. I hadn't understood that to be built into the mayor's motion, but
yeah,
certainly it could be if that was
That's what I thought I understood there. I just
the
wanted to make
mayor's
sure.
wish, and then approved by the seconder.
Okay. All right, I just wanted that clarification.
Okay, but then do we have to have a time certain or?
That was going to be my next question, is
Well,
there
I
a
don't know how
time on
long it
that?
would take us to get all the folks I've talked to people in the community who seem to be willing to do that, to sit down with us and see if if we weren't going to adopt this with minor modification, then there are people who seem to be on both sides willing to sit down and saying, let's work together. I think we heard that here tonight by some of the testimony. If I'm wrong?
There may be value in setting a hard time limit for the subcommittee to return to the council. You'll recall from the several recent subcommittees, committees with no timeline can create never-ending
Well, I realize
issues.
that. In fact, this one I don't think had a timeline, and then suddenly I was told it had to come back. Maybe I would.
So, Mayor, that would be putting a time limit on us, based on what you...
Right, I don't know what the time, okay, what would you suggest? I accept your insightful thoughts here.
How about 30 days?
30 days to get everybody together and to get a
Well,
trade
that's
show?
probably
and-
that's not enough. Let's
I
say
think-
60 days.
I think at least 60.
60 days. Let's
6
say
weeks
60
to
days.
60 days, yeah.
Okay, and then come back and just see whether or not we have any momentum going in that direction?
Right. That's what I understand.
I think this is a wonderful opportunity. If we get people on both sides together and in a different kind of setting and see what we can all live with. And then we have the 1-year phase-in. We use that year to educate, and we promote a more natural Ojai. I really like that slogan. And I think this is a wonderful opportunity to see how good government can work.
I think I understand the motion.
Okay.
And we can take what Paul's suggesting and craft that as the starting point.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question on your motion.
Sure.
What are you and the Mayor Pro Tem going to be looking to accomplish by tabling this and bringing it back in 60 days?
Okay. Maybe it should not be Mayor Pro Tem, but you and me, Paul.
I'm more than willing.
Yeah, right. Well, aren't we all?
Yeah.
What I'm trying to accomplish is, rather than to try to craft this at 10 o'clock at night just off the tops of our, maybe you thought that out more carefully and have written it up, but if you haven't, I was thinking that if we did that and we get people like Mr. Colomé, Jeff maybe is a person who is impacted by this. There are half a dozen people in the room that seem like they had both as the Severo, for one. He's been in on this for the longest while, and he's a landscape gardener to maybe see if there's a way. Maybe in the end, we come right back to where we are now, and it's just up or down. Does that, if it,
Me too, yeah.
If you'd rather vote tonight on what your direction, I'm
Well,
okay with that too.
we're going to vote on your motion first.
Okay.
So, I'm not looking at it as it being myself and you, Mr. Mayor. I just can't see that, and again, I'm only one vote, but I'm going to have to vote against it.
But, Councilmember Blatz, I heard you say that based on what you saw tonight, I heard you use those words, and that is where I have a big problem, because I feel like what we saw tonight was not the best demonstration that we could have seen.
And it very well may be not the best demonstration, but I'm not sure that we're going to get a better demonstration in 60 days.
Probably
Well, we're gonna
not.
work on it.
Okay, why don't we,
I want to say something before it's too late. We have a member of the council who's a landscape architect, and I want him to at least speak to why he is not recusing himself.
Because he did, the state
well,
said he didn't have to.
because that has already been,
He doesn't have to.
I would like him to.
it has been, pardon me, I'm sorry, it has been ruled legally that he does not have to recuse himself.
Mr. Mayor, it may be valuable if I spend a moment or two on that point
Sure.
to clarify the concern in the community. Councilmember Haney's business is as a landscape architect and a landscape designer. He does some grow and maintenance period work for landscaping. I analyzed the issue when this first came up and concluded that he does not have to recuse under the terms of the Political Reform Act because the amount of landscape maintenance work that he does is a sufficiently small portion of his business that it would not be affected by this proposed ordinance. That question was then punted or proposed to the Fair Political Practices Commission in a formal written advice letter, a copy of which can be acquired from the city clerk, it is a public record, or from the FPPC. The Fair Political Practices Commission analyzed the issue and concluded the same. Councilmember Haney does not need to recuse from this discussion because this does not pose a conflict for the Political Reform Act for him. Thank you.
Actually, Mayor, if I could clarify that, just to answer you, I've had the hardest time in my life trying to educate people, the difference between a landscape contractor and a maintenance contractor. I'm a landscape contractor. I install, design, and construct. Maintenance contractors like Savaro, maintenance contractors like Mar, they have to have a C-27, but the majority of the work that they perform is in maintenance. The majority of the work that I do is in construction.
Okay, very good. So let's go ahead and just have the roll call. It doesn't sound like
Just
it's
make
changed.
one more comment, Mr. Mayor. The problem I have with putting the vote off is we had this 1-year moratorium. Now, 6 months from now is going to put us into September.
60 days.
We're not going to have anything, Susan, in 60 days, I don't believe. I really don't think, Councilwoman, we're going to have anything in 60 days.
Right, well, there was testimony that it would, to do it right, it would take up to 6 months.
So
Yeah.
then what we have to do is we have to extend this period of phasing in on the original motion, which means they can use any kind of leaf blowers they want. There's no certification, there's no training, there's no registration, and we're going to have to put that off another 6 months. Where and I have no idea, I haven't discussed this with any, obviously, I can't discuss it with my colleagues, I could discuss it with one, and I haven't even done that with my motion. I just think we're pushing it down. I would love to know if there's more technology, and if it is worth, if we're going to put it out 6 months, and we can frame in that motion that we're going to allow this to continue for another 6 months or 9 months, as it currently exists, so that they can use anything they want, then I will go along with the mayor's motion.
Okay, and then I need clarification. What does this do anything they want? I thought we had an existing ordinance that was much narrower, just addressing gasoline.
The existing ordinance provides that gas blowers are banned in residential zones, and gas and electric blowers are allowed under a few rules in other zones. It has not been enforced for many years under prior council's direction to not enforce it pending consideration of the matter.
So you're referring to the council order not to enforce it?
Yeah.
Because we could change that, too.
We could change
The
that.
council does have the power to change the prior council's decision on enforcement
Okay.
as well.
I'm going to put a little joke out there. This is like kicking the leaf down the road. We just seem to do this. We just can't get stuff done.
Okay, but I really want to be clear on this. There is, Mr. Attorney, there is an ordinance on the books banning leaf blowers and
Gasoline
banning
leaf blowers.
gas-powered leaf blowers, and what was the rest?
Oh, the present ordinance, it bans gas-powered leaf blowers in residential zones and permits gas and electric blowers in non-residential zones. And it is presently silent on electric blowers in residential zones. Oh, pardon me. residential, electric blowers are allowed in residential zones, again, under certain rules.
Okay.
The one
So-
clarification there.
So it's not true that if we did nothing, that anybody could do, everybody could just use any old equipment that they have sitting in their garage, is that right? We
That
do-
would depend on the council's enforcement choices.
Okay, so if we chose to enforce that, we have already an ordinance.
What I'm referring to,
Yeah.
Councilwoman Francina, is that right now in commercial applications, both gas, regardless of the technology, and electric can be used,
Thank you. Yeah. But not in residential.
but not in residential. Residential, electric can be used.
Okay.
And the hours of operation, what are the hours of operation?
The hours of operation in electric leaf blowers in residential zones are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., weekdays and Saturdays, no operation on Sundays or holidays. And just for reference sake, in commercial zones, or in rather non-residential zones, that's commercial, public, anything else.
Okay.
Hours are 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., except for holidays.
Okay, but we're not enforcing it by council direction.
Yep, and may
At
I,
present, that's
Which
true.
is somewhat incredulous
may I make
on
a
my,
comment?
when I'm finished making a comment, I'll be happy to. We have laws on the books that we say we won't enforce. Why don't we repeal the laws?
Right.
I mean, that's the thing that's disturbing to me.
I remember when I was running, I used to say, let's,
Right.
obey the law, enforce the law or change it. That was one of
Right.
my campaign slogans.
But we have an agenda item that brought everybody here that said one thing that was unanimously approved by a prior council, and now it seems that we're going totally in the opposite direction. Saying that we aren't enforcing the laws that we have, and that we're going to recraft the thing tonight, although, Paul's being very generous with his, accommodation if we can come to some agreement, but,
Mayor Johnston?
well, yeah.
I have a
Go-
question.
yeah.
I assume it would be in order for this council tonight if it wished. And let's say one of these motion passes, either one, it would still be appropriate for the council to take up a direction on changing the current enforcement suspension protocol.
Could
That
that
would
be,
still be in order tonight?
Matt?
In other words, we could take that up after we vote, we take our vote here?
Adjusting the enforcement levels wouldn't fall within what was agendized for tonight's discussion.
Okay.
Unfortunately, would need to be added to a future agenda, but the council could direct that it be added to
Okay.
a future agenda tonight.
For that
Okay,
clarification.
fine. Okay, why don't we go ahead and vote on it and see where the council is
Which one are we voting on?
on the idea that we would postpone this or table it and try to get the parties together and see if there is a compromise that we would craft rather than trying to do it this evening.
And, Mr. Mayor, what's the length of time it's going to be tabled?
Well, if we were going to, based on what you said and what Mr. Colmy said, it probably would have to be tabled for 6 months in order to be able to make any difference in the state of the art. Otherwise, I guess we're just delaying.
Could we word that so that it's no longer than 6 months and do it sooner if possible? Like 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, fine with me.
Okay.
And I just want to be sure the 6 months doesn't impede that one-year period on the original motion, correct? Wasn't it October?
If the council decided at the end of that discussion to adopt the tabled motion, it would still kick in November.
November.
Certainly, the council could extend that out if they wished.
Okay.
In other words, by tabling the motion for 6 months, you're not binding your hands in the future. You retain the power to rewrite the rule once you adopt the ordinance.
Okay, Paul, just for clarification, you talking about the idea of a 1 year?
Yeah, the ordinance as it's written is a one-year phase-in period where it was this period of time that not only were the landscapers, but also we were going to be able to find out about the alternate technology out there. Well, if we put it off another 6 months, I just want to make sure that we're not putting it out so far that then the actual moratorium, or not the moratorium, but the ban, the total ban, goes into effect while we're sitting around waiting to see new technology. I want to avoid that.
Oh, yeah, if I understand the question correctly, the current, the action you're taking tonight won't change the laws on the books.
As it is right now.
And the laws on the books as is right now are the ban on gas-powered leaf blowers in residential zones and the allowance for electric in residential and gas and electric in commercial. That won't change. In other words, the one-year phase-in piece is still not actually adopted by the council, so that clock isn't running. But when the council considers the matter, if you decide to impose either a ban or else impose a compromise measure, you can set the phase-in of that as desired.
It actually says here, Mayor, the effective date is May 1st, 2018, is the one-year phase-in period, with an effective date of May 1st, 2018.
Okay, but until something's enacted, that won't apply, will it, man?
That's what was proposed.
Is
Certainly
Mr.
not
Coley
enacted.
still here? Steve, are you out there? Yeah. Does this make any sense? You're one of on the regulation and health part of this. Does this make any sense, or is it better just to go ahead and make the decision tonight?
Well, I mean, I think the up to 6 months makes sense, because we may be able to bring this group that did the municipal park in South Pasadena, and I really think that the city did a very poor job of putting this report together. It was very, very
Okay,
selectively.
But aside from that, if we were to work with you and some of the other people who have different points of view and try to set that up, does that make sense to try it, or?
Yes, I mean, rather than crafting this on the fly, I mean, we've been recommending a process like that for years now, and the city hasn't been open to it, frankly.
Okay, well, we don't know if they are yet, but
Yeah.
anyway, we'll find out. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Should we go ahead and vote on the first, or the motion that I've made, and if that doesn't go anyplace, then we go to the, so, roll call?
Councilmember Haney?
No.
Councilmember Francina?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wyrick?
Yes.
Councilmember Blatz?
Yes.
Mayor Johnston?
Yes. Okay.
Mayor Johnston, may I request that we
You
put
wanna-
on the agenda the issue of our current suspended enforcement protocol at the earliest available meeting?
You got it.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, that brings us, I guess, to the end of the regular session. We got a closed session, if we wish to proceed.
I need a
Okay, great.
cookie.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You care to
Yes,
describe
thank
it?
you. This council will be going into closed session to consider a public employee performance evaluation of the city manager under Government Code Section 54957. No reportable action is expected. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Adjourn to the closed session. You get that, Jeremy? Okay.